Good evening and welcome to the April 21st, 2022 meeting of the Mount Juliet Municipal and Regional Planning Commission meeting. As we get started tonight, it's wonderful to see a full house. Excited to see everybody here. Looks like we almost have our seats full in here. So if you got a couple, if you see anybody standing or whatnot and you're on the outside, kind of maybe shift in. I don't think we got anybody looking for seats at this moment, but just be a little bit mindful as we have a full house. And as well, don't know what everybody is here for tonight, but they'll talk to you about the opportunities to speak and talk this evening. As we do, either in the item that you're here for or whatnot, just be mindful that most of the time the meeting is continuing there behind you. And so as you do exit the building from the item that you wish to hear or hear present for, just be mindful that the meeting will continue being conducted at that time. So want to announce something in regards to quorum, just to make sure everybody here, because we do have a full house. The presence of 5 members of the commission shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, wait up to 30 minutes after the scheduled meeting time for a quorum to be present. And we do have everyone present tonight, which is welcome. In the event that a member is required to leave a meeting prior to adjournment and the departure should cause a loss of quorum, no further official action may be taken until a quorum is restored other than adjournment. A majority vote of those commissioners present, and in no case less than 4 affirmative votes should be required to decide any item of business requiring action by the commission. So just wanted to read that as an additional note tonight. First item up on the agenda will be to set our agenda. I am only aware of one change, and that one change is a project that's been withdrawn by the applicant. It was item 10.1 on our agendas. Item 10.1 was review the land use plan amendment for Providence Commons located at 631 South Mount Juliet Road. That was totally withdrawn and not deferred by the applicant. So if you're here to hear that item on the agenda, it will not be heard as it has been withdrawn from the table. Which also does include is that correct? Item 11.1 also was withdrawn, which is part of that. Item 11.1 was going to be a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners, but it's also been withdrawn from our agenda, and that was to review the preliminary master development plan with a plan unit development for Providence Commons located at 631 South Mount Juliet Road. Once again, that was withdrawn from our agenda and by the applicant. So not a deferral, which means we probably will not see that again. Other than that, any other changes, adjustments? We'll set the agenda as stated. We'll begin our night with our staff reports and start with Ms. Hamblin.
I just want to give you an update from our meeting with the Wilson County Coordinating Committee, which was held on March the 29th. That was, I felt like, a very productive meeting. Each entity in the county will be submitting a letter to Sheila, who was nominated to be the coordinating committee secretary, as far as other items that they want to see discussed at the next meeting. And so whenever I hear about when that date is, I'll let you guys know so you can attend if you like. Also coming next month, Mr. Collins is working on a PC bylaws amendment regarding canceled meetings.
Wonderful.
And how to handle those going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, move on to Public Works. Mr. Barlow.
Thank you all. It's good to be here tonight. I'll give you some updates on some things we've been working on behind the scenes. One of them is a stormwater utility. I would say, years in the making for us. Monday night, we're going to have a work session with the Board of Commissioners. That's at 5:15. I encourage everybody who has any interest whatsoever in that to come. Just a heads up, this is a utility. This is not a tax. This is a user fee. And as a user fee, we're all homeowners. We all pay a utility bill for sewer, water, whatever. We all also have impervious area that our homes are on. And so think about that. That is a use to the area. And so there's a fee associated with that. So this is something that could and would impact all of us. Now, it's a small amount from what you might be used to with electric bills and heating bills and everything, but it could do a lot for the city as far as helping to do capital projects to help alleviate flooding, maintain our systems that we have, keep them in good working order. So that is going to be Monday night. So look for more information on that. Cedar Creek Greenway, that is progressing well. Oddly enough, I've yet to even go out on the site and look at it, but next week, the pedestrian bridge is going to be set into place. I think that is a 110-foot long bridge. I don't know if you remember, Shane. Steel, single piece, single structure bridge. And so it's going to be set all in one time. So big crane, big bridge, go out there. It'd be a lot of fun. And so also bridge widening. I mean, everybody probably has experienced that over the past year and a half. So as far as I know, I think still ongoing for a June completion date. They did have some extra time associated with the bridge being hit. So look for some other stuff. There's been some, the decorative type stuff going in, some landscaping going in, and there'll be a monument wall as you exit from the westbound ramps. It'll be going up probably here in the next couple of weeks, I'd say, or at least digging for that. Old Lebanon Dirt Road, they want to update. So if everybody's familiar around the 2800, 2900 block, I'll say, of Old Lebanon Dirt Road, it's basically between Page Drive, Jackson Hollow, and Kelsey Glen. That area floods, and the reason why, it all flows to a sinkhole, and the sinkhole is very unpredictable. And over time, based on observations from people who live in the area, I think it's gotten worse. Worse meaning it's plugged up more. And so we've been going through the roadway design on that and came to some very sobering conclusions of how do you treat that? How do you handle that? How can you design for that and actually keep it to where the road doesn't flood, or maybe as a second objective, the properties or the homes don't flood. And so the cost of that is very high, many millions of dollars on top of the project that we're looking at, $6 million plus probably. In addition, that's a stormwater issue, but it's not something the stormwater utility can take on, maybe even in part. But we are going to be pushing forward with that. So that, for the questions that may be coming up as far as how's the work going on Old Lebanon Dirt Road, we're acquiring properties elsewhere. We do have some design changes to make in that area. So that area is going to take a minute to get finalized. But we are progressing along with the project. We have some really good plans set, not with the drainage notwithstanding. So we've been having a lot of work sessions. Commissioner Hefner, I know we've been wearing you all out with the work sessions here lately, but we have a lot going. So thanks to the Board of Commissioners for that, and thank you for your time on that. Shane, do you have anything else? All right. That's all for Public Works and Engineering.
Wonderful. Thank you all. There is a lot. I guess I got one question. Just saw, I guess this afternoon, really, the stoplights up and blinking at South Green Hill.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
What will be the ETA for making it active?
So the laws for that require 7 days that has to be in flash before you can put it in operation. So a minimum 1 week from today.
And then the magic question that I get asked the most, will the timing of it be variable based upon the time of day, or how is this one? Is it going to be the pressure sensor that you drive up, then it changes, or is this one going to be on a kind of a time signal, or how is this one going to set up?
It has, so we have our standard detection, which is radar detection. Don't worry, it doesn't catch your speeds. You see the little white boxes up on our signals.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's our detection. So it will be fully actuated is basically what the technical term for that. So you pull up there, we'll have a set time for letting Lebanon Road go, and then you'll have the side street movements from there. So bear with us as we go through probably some changes in the timing plans. It's never perfect when you first turn it on, and it's going to take us probably some time to get that adjusted.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the commission? Seeing none, we will move on with our agenda. Next item up on our agenda is our citizen comments. At this time, we will take citizen comments. The public is welcome and encouraged to make public comment about any item on our agenda. There will be 2 opportunities for you to make comments. You may speak now, or you may speak when that specific item is presented to the Planning Commission. We do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And just as a side note, because we got a lot of people and I figure a lot of you will want to come up and speak. So if you are up here speaking and you hit 2 minutes, you're going to see me just kind of raise my right hand right here for you. That means that you're down to your last minute right there, and want to allow opportunity for everyone to speak. So my apologies at 3 minutes if I tap the gavel and have you wrapping up. So if you see me up here waving my hand, that means kind of come to your summary, and you got about a minute left up there. So that usually gives everybody an opportunity that does desire to speak the opportunity to do so. So with that being said, anyone that wishes to address the Planning Commission at this time is welcome and encouraged to do so. And please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, we'll move forward with our first item on the agenda. Our first item on the agenda falls underneath our consent agenda. Or excuse me, sorry. Yeah, boy. Excuse me. Our first item on the agenda is item 2.1. It's the minutes approval from the Planning Commission regular meeting on March 17th of 2022. Any motion to approve? Do I have a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So, hang on. It's 3 abstentions. 1, 2,
I have to abstain as well.
3,
I wasn't there.
4. Does that give me an approval? I do have 5. Okay. Sorry to count that. Yeah.
I got to abstain.
Well, we're about to decline our Planning Commission meeting minutes. That'd be a first right there. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Yeah, exactly. All right. Moving on. Our next item up on our agenda is our consent agenda. We'll begin with item 3.1, sewer letter of credit number SLC 00005408 for Baird Farms, Phase 2A, in the amount of $10,037 can be released. Item 3.2, sewer letter of credit number SLC 00005443 for Baird Farms, Phase 3A, in the amount of $24,012 can be released. Item 3.3, sewer letter of credit number SLC 00005635 for Baird Farms, Phase 3B, in the amount of $47,608 can be released. Item 3.4, sewer letter of credit number SLC 00005533 for Kelsey Glenn, Phase 5B, in the amount of $31,716 can be released. Item 3.5, sewer letter of credit number TFTS-892975 for Nicholsville, Phase 3, Section 2B, in the amount of $49,752 can be released. Item 3.6, review the final plat for the Harrington Subdivision, Phase 3, Lots 7 and 8, revision, located at 303 and 305 Sunderland Drive. Item 3.7, review the site plan for Little Sunshine Play School, located at 98 Hatfield Lane. Item 3.8, review the commercial design standards waiver for Little Sunshine Play School, located at 98 Hatfield Lane. Item 3.9, review the preliminary plat for Bradshaw Farms, Phase 3, located at Vanner Road and Beckwith Road. Item 3.10, review the final master development plan for Bradshaw Farms, Phase 3, located at Vanner Road and Beckwith Road. Item 3.11, review the site plan for Legacy Point Office, Lot 7, located at Legacy Point and Golden Bear Gateway. Ms. Hamlin.
Approval with any conditions that we have listed. Just a point to note out that there is also a design standard waiver for Legacy Point. You can see that in our staff report for the screening of the HVAC.
Wonderful.
Staff recommends approval for that. And for the Little Sunshine Play School, it's 21% hardy. It's a beautiful building, and staff supports that request as well.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Barlow, anything from Public Works?
No additional comments.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I got just one question back for staff real quick for Ms. Hamlin. That is, because that plan look like more than 21% of that hardy. We are sure that we are 21% hardy and not exceeding that, right?
That's what their architect indicated on the plans. So I would have no way to calculate that. But if you do like the way the building looks as it's presented, then you could make that recommendation as presented and not time to a percentage. But that's what's indicated on the plans.
I actually like the 21%. So I just want to make sure
That's
that
fine.
they stay to that. Very well. Questions, comments from the commission? This time we'll take citizen comments. Any citizen wishing to comment on any item on our consent agenda is welcome and encouraged to do so. And please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, we'll be closing our planning commission meeting in order to open a public hearing. Public hearing is in regards to item 3.6, which is review the final plat for the Harrington Subdivision, Phase 3, Lots 7 and 8 revision, located at 303 and 305 Sunderland Drive. Anyone wishing to make a comment on that specific item during the public hearing is welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, we'll close our public hearing, reopen our planning commission meeting, and at which time I'm looking for a motion in regards to the items on our consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda items based on staff recommendations,
And
notes, comments,
the variance is granted.
and variances granted, correct.
And Little Sunshine is limited to 21%.
And yes, Little
Okay.
Sunshine.
Little
is limited to
Sunshine.
21%.
Little sunshine. I'll second that. That's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising their hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. Next item up on our agenda. Would there be any objection from the commission, or would it be appropriate for us to hear 13 or 4.1 and 4.2 together? Ms. Hamlin, would that be okay? Be all right? Any objection to hearing 4.1 and 4.2 together? Seeing none, we will hear items 4.1 and 4.2 together. Both of them are a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. Item 4.1 is review the plan of services for 1340 Northwest Rutland Road. Item 4.2 is review the annexation request for 1340 Northwest Rutland Road. Ms. Hamlin.
You may or may not remember this coming before you several months ago. In fact, it was on the meeting that was canceled due to weather, and then we put it on consent agenda the very next meeting, so you may not have paid a lot of attention to it. I'll let Mr. Barlow elaborate further on the sewer side of things, but ultimately the Board of Commissioners did not grant the out-of-city sewer request for this one and has requested, and the applicant has complied with an annexation request. I will say we have gotten with staff as far as the fire and police for servicing this address and said it will be an island, and they feel comfortable responding to this address that far away from our city limits, current city limits.
Very well. Mr. Barlow, wish to add something?
Sure. And I'm probably, I think, a big point of clarification for this property is the eligibility of annexation. And the reason why we pushed through with the out-of-city sewer request prior was that we were running under the assumption that they were not eligible for annexation. Basically, residential construction, home construction, how it would qualify as a development. The definition is very fuzzy. And so, but it was deemed that with it being a new construction, a vacant lot, new construction, therefore development of a home, that it did qualify for that. And so with the new construction aspect of it, that was the clarification we were given that it was eligible. And we've already passed a resolution early last year with the Board of Commissioners basically not allowing any out-of-city sewer. We've given some rare circumstances of those where it made no sense whatsoever. This would be, yes, an island, but an island within a donut hole that we have currently within the city. It's surrounded by city. And so it does make a lot of sense. I know this has been, Northwest Rutland's been a point of much contention over the years for the out-of-city sewer. which I'm sure, Mr. Chair, you're probably very familiar with several of those that we've had. And so this is another one in those. And we actually have an annexation later on that was on another roadway that we've started to get several in a row annexed. I anticipate with this, I anticipate this won't be on an island for long. But with that, we come back to this commission with the applicant's request for annexation. Staff does support that. It does comply with the resolution that we passed last year.
Well, questions, comments from the commission? Couldn't agree more. I like the, if you want to get on the sewer, it should be in the city. So that's kind of my agreement on that. With that being said, I'd like to ask for citizen comments in regards to this item on the agenda. If citizens wish to make comment, welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. See no citizen comments this time. Looking for a recommendation in regards to items 4.1 and 4.2 on our agenda. I'll make a motion for a positive recommendation for both.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? It is a positive recommendation. So these are a little bit different. What about 5.1 and 5.2 together or separate? Think we can hear them together? Any objection to us hearing 5.1 and 5.2 together? See no objection to that. We will be hearing 5.1 and 5.2 together. Both of them, once again, are a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. Item 5.1 is review the annexation of a portion of the Stephen Reagan property located at 8854 Saunasville Road. Item 5.2 is review the rezone request for a portion of the Stephen Reagan property located at 8854 Saunasville Road. Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item in question, the landowners, Mr. Greer and Mr. Regan. Mr. Regan is owns the property we'll call the Giving property, and he is agreeing to transfer 0.16 acres of his parcel to be joined with Mr. Greer's property. Just for your information, Mr. Regan's property is located at 8854 Saunasville Road, and Mr. Greer's property is 8890, the receiving property. The purpose for this, Mr. Greer is acquiring the acreage to increase his parcel to create a better residential dwelling site. His home can fit better on the property. 8854 Saunasville Road is in the county's unincorporated area, and it's zoned R1. While Mr. Greer's property, which was annexed just last year, I believe, his property is zoned RS30. We have a copy of the plan of services crafted for this annexation request, albeit it's 0.16 acres being transferred over and adjoining a contiguous property, which is Mr. Greer's. That's in the corporate limits of the city already. As far as the annexation request in itself, staff does not have any reservations with supporting this annexation request. As far as the rezoning, of course, I've already touched on this a little bit, that the Giving property, that acreage is currently zoned R1 county, and the receiving property RS30. So staff does not have any reservations with supporting that rezoning request, which RS30 is what's recommended by staff in the plan of services. Just one additional item. I know it's not, it is listed here. We do have a final plat, an amended final plat to be more specific. The acreage that Mr. Regan owns is part of a recorded plat from some years ago. And even though this parcel 12 appears on tax maps as one parcel, it's technically three lots of record. And he put his house approximately where lot 10 is located. The acreage being transferred is coming off of lot 11, according to the recorded plat. So what this means to staff, it's not a concern for us, for the city, but if Mr. Regan decided to sell the property, at least lot 11, it could be a non-compliant lot by the county standards, since they do require a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet for R1. Unless they get a septic analysis that the site as low as 30,000 square feet could support a septic system. So that'll be an issue for Mr. Regan or a future landowner to remedy in the future, should he decide to sell off his individual lots. Nonetheless, staff doesn't have any reservation with an amended plat, and we support the request, provided the Board of Commissioners takes their respective action on the plan of service, annexation, and rezoning step.
Well, thank you. Any comments from Public Works on this one?
No, I do want to make note. Saunasville Road is the one I was referring to, that you see a road, you're starting to see this, as Shane said it very well, a domino effect of annexations out there. So what you see on your map here for Saunasville Road, I anticipate for Northwest Rutland.
Yeah. Thank you. Questions or comments from the commission? See no questions or comments. This time we'll call for citizen comments. Anyone wishing to make comment is welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. See no citizen comments at this time. I'm looking for a recommendation in regards to items 5.1 and 5.2. It's a motion for a positive recommendation. In a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? That is a positive recommendation. Next item up on the agenda is item 6.1, review the preliminary plat for the Bender's Ferry subdivision located at 77-1 Bender's Ferry Road. Ms. Hamble.
Mr. Chairman, I will not spend a lot of time going over my staff report, so I hope you read it. I feel like there's going to be a lot of discussion on this one. This preliminary plat is for the 210 lot single family residential subdivision. As a result of a sketch plat approved by Wilson County, this subdivision will not be located in the city limits of Mount Juliet, but will be and currently is in our urban growth boundary. The property is zoned R1, and it is subdivided and zoning rights under the cluster development under that county zoning at 1.3 units per acre. The average lot size is 8,950 square feet, while the minimum lot size presented is 6,727. Sidewalks are shown on both sides of the streets. However, they are outside of the right of way, which puts these sidewalks about 10 feet from the front of these homes. As you all know, the Road Commission will not allow sidewalks to be placed in county right of way. I think one hot topic tonight will be access to York Road. They have made mention on their plans that those will be emergency access only and gated at all times. Several amenities are shown on the plans. We have not seen plans for those as of yet, and those are listed in my staff report. Staff did also, as an additional amenity, ask for any detention pond that would remain wet, be the fountain type wet pond. I believe that provides additional amenity to each subdivision rather than just have a stagnant pond of water. Elevations for each house has not been submitted, and they are not sure what type of home will be developed within this subdivision. In my summary, I state that although this development started the approval process at the city level, which we would have loved to have them annex and be able to serve this development in the city, they have chosen not to. And if you guys choose to approve this tonight, I have conditions listed that I'd ask that you include. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barlow.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, please.
Number 8, under planning, that this subdivision shall comply with all county zoning regulations.
Once again, Public Works, Mr.
All right.
Barlow.
Sure thing. Yeah, I won't spend too much time on this. So this is within our UGB, therefore part of our subdivision regulations does require a traffic study. As a result, we did go through when it even came in prior as a city development. I believe the homes were considerably more, I think 350 or more. The lot count here, I believe, is 210 or something in that range. And so one of our comments was a 3-lane section between access points on Bender's Ferry Road. They are showing that. We do have, so there's some discussion about improvements at Lebanon Road. We do have the project that's under design right now for widening that. We wanted to help make that a better project. One of the deficiencies we have at that intersection is storage length. There really is none. The right turn lane is really nothing to speak of. And so we wanted them to do an improvement that would tie into the eventual roadway widening improvements. And that is to extend comment number 3, widening Bender's Ferry Road from Lebanon Road to the Joy Church access. So Joy Church, if you know, has a left turn lane already there. And so we don't want the jogging in and out for especially the southbound traffic. And so that we feel will tie in well with our eventual roadway widening project. So we have those in our condition. That's condition number 3. And so they do have basically one of the things that I want to look at for the roadway sections is at least meet or exceed those sections. They do show a curb and gutter section, which is our standard section now. The county standard is still a extruded curb, which is the roll type curb that you might see in our older neighborhoods. And so, but they do have that shown. They do have the width shown on that as well. But yes, and they do have sidewalks shown as well. Those are outside of the right of way. So substantially meeting or exceeding that. I will note the county does have a slightly thicker pavement section, so which is fine. But other than that, no additional comments on that one. We just additionally ask, or just same as what Jennifer said on that, just ask that you include our conditions of approval with your vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Open it up. Questions or comments from the commission for staff? All right. Seeing none at this time. Oh, Mr. Kepler, please.
Mr. Barlow, can you explain a little bit about the step system that's going to be used to service these homes?
On the site, so this is pretty typical for a lot of developments in the county that are not on a public sewer system. That is one that basically goes to a central collection and treatment facility like ours does. They have their own field, septic field. So it's a Adenis is the name of the system. Generally on the north, well, actually you can really see it on the overall site plan. C1.0, you see some areas where it would say soils area. They have 2 different ones, I think. No, there's 3 that are shown. And those are actually the areas where instead of having on-site septic for each site, each home, on-site meaning within each lot, it goes to those collection areas. And basically it's a proprietary type of system, but I believe it's the maintenance would be go to the wastewater authority of Wilson County. So that's the general idea of it. And so it's instead of being pumped as we do, we have our main trunk lines. All of our sewage here goes to Metro, gets treated, and then released. This is all basically on site.
Is it above ground? Is it underground?
Underground.
Underground.
It's like a septic tank, but much larger.
I've heard it referred to as just a large litter box.
Sandbox, yeah.
Sandbox.
Same, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And because it falls within our urban growth boundaries, at some point, that property will be part of the city limits of Mount Juliet. Is that correct?
That's based on our UGB, yes.
Based on our UGB,
Mhm.
which means we would have to take over the maintenance at some point.
Potentially, yes. Mhm.
Okay.
I think if there was any scenario where, this is true, some around here been a long time, maybe familiar with Cumberland Utility. We actually bought some facilities from them. There's some old sewer. There's an old sewer treatment plant off of Saunasville Road. We purchased something similar I could foresee maybe at some point in time in the future, where we take those facilities and pump them to our facilities, and then we handle treatment.
Okay. I actually have one more request.
Please.
Can I get our fire chief, Jimmy Luffman? So, folks, just to preface the series of questions I'm going to ask here, I've got a concern, and I'm sure this development meets all the check boxes as far as our subdivision requirements. But that's my greater concern is if you've been watching the news and you know anything about what's going on with WEMA, you know that they're grossly understaffed right now. In fact, I'm going to just read some stats, and then I'm going to ask Chief Luffman to speak specifically about the station, the WEMA station that will be servicing this neighborhood. As of right now, there are 25 open positions at WEMA. There are 35 employees that are currently seeking employment elsewhere. That's 62 positions that will be vacant out of 117. That's 53% of WEMA that's not staffed at WEMA stations. Chief, is it my understanding that Station 6, Legardo, is that the station that will be servicing?
It'll be, this development will be in between Station 3 and Station 6 in Legardo, yes, sir.
Okay.
And it will be up to their direction as to which is the primary first due in.
Okay. For Station 6, how many people staff? What's the full staff at full staff, and what's current staff?
It's a 4-person station, but it is routinely staffed with only 2 people.
Okay, 2 people.
Yeah.
And how many pieces of equipment?
2.
So a
Yeah,
truck,
an engine and an ambulance.
engine, and ambulance.
Mhm.
Where's the backup station
If
they're called out?
If Legardo is the first in station, then Station 3 will be the second due from Clemens Road.
Okay, which is right behind City Hall.
Yes, they'll be moving.
So they'll be moving an additional, 2-3 miles?
Yes.
Further away
Yes,
from this development,
Mhm.
which adds another 5 minutes.
It could be that much, yes.
So I think everybody knows where I'm going with this. I've got a major public safety concern with these citizens that are going to be living in this subdivision. And for that alone, I'm not going to support this. Happy to talk to the applicant. And in fact, I have. He is open to being annexed into the city, although he chose not to defer to next month to allow us some time to, for him to go around to speak to the other commissioners at the BOC. So that's my concern. It's a public safety concern. It's a legitimate concern. I wouldn't live there based on the conditions of what's going on with WEMA right now. And I certainly, in my right mind, couldn't approve a subdivision and put those individuals at risk. That's it. It's pretty plain and simple. So, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Further questions, comments? All right. Seeing no further comments this time, let's go ahead and open it up for citizen comments or applicant. Yeah, go ahead. Name and address for the record.
We've been working on this project for a year. We started this process back in March of last year. We had 462 lots at the time. I think this is a 210 lot development. So we had 462. We started with an RS-15 just because Silver Springs next door had RS-15. We've done some RS-15s, and that's what we started with. We met with Mr. Hefner and Commissioner Hefner and Commissioner Justice and staff also, and it was pretty well said that RS-15 is too many. So we went back, changed our plan to an RS-20 plan, which was 354, 2.2 units an acre. So 354 lots. That's what we submitted to the city last fall is what it was. We submitted that as a PUD or an RS-20 PUD. We got to the planning commission right before the planning commission, some conversations with the commissioners. We decided to defer it for too many lots. The 354 lots was too many. So we deferred it. And at the time, with the next tier down from RS-20, you go to RS-30. RS-30 density is nearly the same as the county density. The densities are the same. So it became clear to us that, among other things, that we are already zoned R1. We're already in the county. We were going to be needing to do 4 pump stations on this project to do sewer for the city. It became clear to us that there's good reasons just to stay in the county, do R1 cluster, and we started that process. That was last fall. We got the sketch plat approved by the county. We submitted last year to staff for this preliminary plat, and we've deferred to this point. So it's been a long process to get to here. I know you guys are hearing it really for the first time, but we've been working diligently with staff. I appreciate staff's willingness to work with us. Andy's group, we worked a lot of hours on road improvements and stuff that Andy just talked about. This is a 1.3 units an acre. I do want to go through a couple things on the plan. We have 100-foot wide lots on the main road going left to right on your plan. That's Road A. That goes from York Road over to Bender's Ferry. Those are 100-foot wide lots. We agreed with staff to just go ahead and make those side entry. There's a note that says that we've agreed to make those side entry garages. The rest of the lots are 60-foot wide. Like Jennifer said, we have York Road connection, or Andy did, York Road connection. It's gated, emergency only. So all of our traffic with our both entrances will come over to Bender's Ferry. I would probably say that the emergency is more for the York Road residents for the flooding that they have down at Lebanon Road. So they'd probably be opening the gates to come to our subdivision to get to Bender's. So it fixes a big safety issue out there today that those people have only one way in and out to get back to Lebanon Road when it floods every spring at the ball fields. We have a pavilion, tot lots, and Frisbee golf. If you look at our plan in the upper left corner, large Frisbee golf area. We have nearly 100 acres of open space on this project. So there's a lot of open space, really just because we have 210 lots. We don't have 350 or 450. We have 210 lots. The road improvements, like Andy said, we're doing a 3-lane section on Bender's Ferry. So nearly it's going to be a 3-lane section from Lebanon Road all the way to the north of our property, which is about a mile. So big improvement there on Bender's Ferry. We're also improving York Road. Even though we're not using York Road, one of the requirements in your regulations is for us to put our side of curb and gutter and sidewalk on York Road. So we've agreed to that, and that's shown on the plans also. Like Andy said, we're doing curb and gutter roads, not the extruded curb. We're doing sidewalks on both sides. We're doing 6-foot sidewalk along Bender's. We're doing a 6-foot sidewalk on York. So a tremendous amount of sidewalks here for walkability. Again, this was approved at the county back in November. We're not asking for any variances. I know previous projects like ours have asked for variance for sidewalks, variances for road improvements, to not follow the city, but follow the county. Steep slopes, we're not asking for any variances. We're following the county regulations. We're following the city regulations with no variances. So I'm here to ask for your approval tonight. My client, Chris Cowan with Meritage Homes, is here, as well as Tom White with Tunichik and White. And any three of us can answer any questions you guys might have and ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to, Tom, one more point. The WEMA station. We spoke with the WEMA chief, and it appears that this subdivision will be serviced by the Clemens Road station. It'll take a year and a half before we have our first homes in there. So that Clemens station should be plenty open by then. That is 2.8 miles to this property. Both city stations are 3.4 and 3.6 miles. So the WEMA station is going to be closer than the city stations. The one at Green Hills High School and the one here just behind us here. So I heard what you said, Commissioner Hefner, and appreciate the info. But the Clemens station is close. So thank you.
Hang on real quick, Ryan.
Yes. A couple questions. I just want to walk through some math with you.
Just so my.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a numbers guy. You were saying it was, I don't know if you were complaining or I'm not sure, but you said there was a requirement for 4 pump stations. I don't know if that was just an added expense you didn't anticipate incurring or just thought it was cheaper to put in the step system.
No, not at all. It is
No.
more for, those are $800,000 pump stations. We were going to make the numbers work. I would think it's not the best probably for the city as a maintenance forever out there to maintain 4 pump stations for 300 lots. So that's all it was. It was just a.
Oh, so you're worried about the city having to maintain the pump stations?
I think
You're saying
it's
this-
good for the city to
Have a
analyze
step
that.
system. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my point is $800,000 put in 4 pump stations, you pick up 125 lots. At $50,000 a blank, you're making over $6 million. So what are the other concerns or issues you have with getting annexed into the city? Because it's not pump stations.
It's not pump stations. Absolutely not. It's lot count.
Well,
We are at
well, if you get annexed
210
into the
lots.
city,
We're
you get-
asking for 210 lots at 1.3 units an acre. And that's the same as your RS30.
Okay.
So that's what we're asking. We're already zoned for this. We're not asking for anything we're not allowed to do. So we're not asking for PUD or rezoning or more lots. We're happy with the 210.
And to your point about Clemens, just
Mhm.
because they have a building or fire station doesn't mean they're gonna have people in there.
Understood.
So.
Mr. Chairman.
Name and
my name is
address for the record.
Tom White, 511th Avenue North in Nashville. I'm with the law firm of Toon Hendrick and White. I represent the applicant. I'll be very brief in my comments. There's absolutely no question that legally the issue here is, do we meet all of the county regulations? And I've had some conversation in a short meeting with Commissioner Hefner, but he said it all when he began his comments, and as quote, they meet all the boxes. We clearly do. There's no dispute about that. Your attorneys here, you got capable lawyers, they'll confirm to you that basically the law is if we meet the county regulations, it must be approved, period. That's the law. I'm not arguing something that's gray. It's not debatable. So in this case, you've got confirmation from Tom Brashears, the county planner, that we met all the requirements. Jennifer Hamlin's made that comment tonight. I spoke to Mike Jennings today, the county attorney. There's no dispute. We meet all the requirements. And it was unanimously approved by the county in November. And I realized, Commissioner Hefner, there were discussions back and forth between representative of the city about annexation. Everybody knows you can't force the annexation, but let's be fair about this. There was a good faith dialogue between my client and the city representative for that area to see if something might be able to be done. It didn't work. They were talking about a significant number of lots greater with the city. They spent a lot of time and a lot of money. It didn't work. So they reverted back to the county approval, which is 210 lots. That's what happened by unanimous vote of the county. And so I'll comment here that with respect to what's fair and equitable, I think everybody understands when you buy a piece of property, expensive piece of property, you pay architects, you pay engineers, you pay lawyers. You rely on the rules of the road and at the time, and still, we meet every requirement. So I'm asking, as a sense of fairness, client's not asking for any variances. They're under a contract to acquire the piece of property. We're urging you not to defer it and do what legally is required, and that is approve this matter tonight. Again, we'll answer any questions, but there's no variances being asked for of any sort. We meet the law. I realize the city was not able to get it annexed in, but the client in good faith negotiated, and I think you know that. It didn't work. And you can come through all the numbers tonight, but at the end of the day, it was agreed to by my client. They couldn't make it work with the city, so they stayed where they were. So we did legally what we were supposed to. I appreciate your courtesies. Urge you not to defer. We're under contract, and move the approval this evening. So thank you for your courtesies. I'll also answer any questions. And I appreciated your time, Commissioner Hefner. I came to your offices the other day to talk about a matter and just wanted to make sure I told you in advance exactly what I've said here tonight. So there was no hiding the ball. We're here.
I
Thank
just want to address one.
Please.
So, Mr. White, a tremendous amount of respect for you. I appreciate you coming up here. We've seen you up here before, representing Canebrake. Had the same issue. That's one individual on a board of 5. He doesn't speak on behalf of the entire BOC. So your applicant could have submitted the plan as it was laid out initially, as it was submitted in June of last year, and had the votes cast at the time. One individual doesn't make up the entire board. So, it takes 3 to pass. So if he elected to pull it back because of one individual, that's on him. So,
Well, I do want to make this comment. I think my client at some point did at least talk to you. It may have been cursory. And in Nashville, it's
he
called
didn't. I
council.
supported it. Actually, I supported it.
And I'll comment that in Nashville, it may be called councilman courtesy, but there's generally a deference to the person who represents that area. Maybe my client made a mistake by not meeting with all 5. They weren't obligated to, but they dealt with the person whose area this was. And I think everyone will tell you, spent a number of hours with that individual. It didn't work. The other is I want to comment what I said to you previously, and that is the matter should be approved tonight legally, shouldn't be deferred. That's the legal unavoidable. But I made the comment to you, I've said to my client, don't take any action on this matter for 2 weeks. No action further until they meet with you and anybody you want us to see if there's some viability to doing the annexation again. We make that commitment. I did last night to you. I'll make the same commitment tonight. But there's no reason to defer. There's no reason not to approve it. Legally, that's what's required. We had the same argument some time ago. And as I said, if there's a dispute about the law, your attorney's here. He's not going to tell you anything different than what I am. So I appreciate your courtesies and would urge you to approve it tonight. I'll continue to make that commitment. My client's here. We'll take no action, period, for 2 weeks. Meet with you or anybody you want us to.
He sounded like he was open to annexation. So when I
Well,
spoke to him, he was. So.
I talked to him yesterday. I said, please call Commissioner Hefner. We want this matter approved tonight as it should be, but we're willing to discuss that with you and anybody you want us to. We still make that commitment. Thank you.
Points.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
do want to make one comment. I think the cost of the pump stations is a gross exaggeration. My estimation of those is probably more around in the $300,000 to $400,000 range based on today's prices. Now, of course, there's some force main costs, but those are minor compared to the pump station itself. As you can see, they have 3 soils areas here. One could probably look at that. We've not even seen a sewer plan, just to be clear. We had an availability request, but we never saw a plan. We were only told there was going to be 4-ish pump stations, but we never saw a grading plan with the sewer proposed to confirm or deny that. So no information was submitted to us on that behalf.
Mr. Rass? Yes. Somebody,
Just a quick comment. I mean, this is, again, one of those developments we've seen before where basically by default, the city commits to emergency services for these properties, and already burdened emergency services group, and not a whole lot coming back to the city. It's one of those border developments. What I would like to do is hear from Charles and just to confirm what was stated earlier just as far as the basis for approval or not approval, what your opinion is.
I agree with the conditions imposed by Ms. Hamblin, and otherwise, yes, they meet the subdivision regulations.
Please.
Could you also clarify that on a no vote, we have to give a reason? I mean, if we all have to vote yes, why are they even coming back? Why are we even here? We're just wasting time.
Well, you are reviewing the plan to ensure that it complies, and that's the first step. And if you determine that it complies, that's when you need to vote yes. If you find a reason that it doesn't comply, that's when you can vote no.
We state our reasons why we vote no, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Wonderful. Questions, comments from the commission? Well, no. Please, Commissioner Cunningham.
Has the applicant clarified exactly what the reasons are they would not want to be annexed into the city? Is there, I know, Jennifer, I think you had some talks as well. But do we know, and where I'm going with this is, I think we want them to be annexed in the city. And the developer, builder, applicant, it seems to be beneficial because the unit count would go higher. And a developer is a for-profit business. It's capitalism. It's fine. So if they have a benefit from increasing unit count, and the potential is there that the BOC would agree to annex this in this city and vote positively for it, whereas one may not have been positive on it, why are we not working towards that? It seems like a win-win to me.
Right.
What's the but?
I would think that would be a great question for the applicant. I mean, I've heard numerous reasons: pump stations, lot size, lot count,
Numerous reasons for
for not annexing into the
and the
city.
pump stations, that doesn't move the needle enough for the profits that'll be had because of the increased unit count. That does not move the needle at all. So there's that, and but Mr. Barlow indicated that's probably a high estimate regardless. I think it's the pump station's cost is a non-issue. What else is it? Is it fear of restrictions from a PUD they're going to come? Just can we be transparent about this and talk about it and see if we can talk through this to maybe have a win-win situation? Please.
I think the engineer can answer more specifically. What it gets down to is there is no dispute you can get greater density annexed into the city. There's no dispute about that. There's also no dispute the city can't force somebody to annex in. That's why we're here. But I want to urge you that my client is a for-profit business, and they spent months trying to figure out a way that there was the quid pro quo where they could get additional lots and get that worked out. They weren't able to do it. It was not, we've decided from the outset, they'd have the legal right not to meet with anybody. They didn't do that. And instead they spent months dealing with, maybe it was only one commissioner, Mr. Effner, but they reached out trying to discuss it. But at the end of the day, they made a business decision. We're not going to get enough lots in the discussions with the city. We just need to go with the county at 210. It was unanimously recommended. But I made the commitment to Commissioner Hefner. I made it again tonight. Legally, there's no alternative but to approve it this evening. But I'm saying my client will sit down with Mr. Commissioner Hefner, anybody he wants us to within the 2 weeks, and take no steps whatsoever to move forward. So you're exactly right. It should be something to be looked at relatively quickly. We'll look at it again, although my client has had a great deal of time and effort trying to look through the very thing you're talking about. Obviously, we would have preferred to be in the city. That's why we approached the issue in the first place. I've had clients in the same situation. But at the end of the day, they just decided, based on those discussions, they couldn't get an agreed enough position to make it work. That's it. It's just a financial decision. But it was not a tell the city to take a hike. They were down here trying to get it worked out. They didn't have to, but they did. So for that reason, I'm urging you to approve it as legally you're required to, as your lawyer has told you. But we'll still talk to the city. And if it gets worked out, there's no ego on our part. We're happy to do that. but it's a business decision. It's basically driven by 210 lots versus what we have. So that's my comments. I appreciate your courtesies.
Thank you.
Tom, I got one question, and Ryan might have to answer this one. When you initially approached the city, how many lots?
Our original plan was 460 lots. What
And
we
then-
submitted to the city was 350. It was a-
350.
We went from RS-15, what we submitted was an RS-20.
Okay.
And then we were told RS-20 was too many lots, which kicks you down to RS-30.
So you were
So the
basically where
density-
your ending point was 350?
RS-30 is an R 1.5 units an acre, and the county get 1.3. So there's not much, 10, 15 lots. There's not
So-
much more.
What's
Fair-
the math breakdown? How many more lots would you get based on that? Have you done the math real quick?
0.2 times 160, whatever that is,
So basically, in a nutshell,
32.
140 additional lots is what you initially applied for with the city.
Correct. I mean, it completely made sense to get more lots. It made sense to come into the city, like more restrictions, more regulations. Obviously, to be more road improvements when we go through the Pud process. We have planned for all that, budgeted for all that. It's just when we went from the RS-15 to RS-20 down to RS-30, it made no sense to keep going through this process because we were already at that density in the county. It was, we got pushed back so far on the density that we had to stay in the county. I mean, we 100% agree. The pump stations and stuff, regardless of the cost, it's pennies in the grand scheme of things. I 100% agree with you. It's just the density of RS-30 versus R1, which we're already at.
So, I'm going to do something a little bit unusual here real quick. Raise your hand if you're here to, your interest in attending tonight is for this project. Okay, so quite a few of you. Raise your hand again if you'd rather have 350 houses on your road or whether you'd rather have 210 houses on your road. How about if you want 350 houses off of Bender's Ferry, raise your hand. If you would prefer 210, because as you heard, they have an approval from the county as we speak. If your preference is 210, then raise your hand. Interesting quandary. I say that out of the context both because kind of both sides of the fence as well. Because whereas I also agree that the duties and responsibility of the planning commission is to enforce the subdivision regulations as laid forth. You got a project today that's been stated to us that sets the subdivision regulations, but at the same time, we're also governed by the bylaws as set forth by the planning commission. According to the Mount Juliet Regional Planning Commission bylaws, item number 1, I'm going to kind of cut down here real quick. Commissioners are to make unbiased decisions and recommendations on planning, zoning, and subdivision issues, taking into account land use considerations, city policy and regulations, the comprehensive plan, and what would serve the long-term good of the current and future citizens of Mount Juliet. So within that sentence right there, once again, I'm not an attorney, didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn either last night. Also seems in there that falls back on Commissioner Hefner's statement as one of our concerns in looking at a plan, even when a plan should meet your regulations, is also that we have to look at public safety as an item. And so public safety within that bylaws, and correct me if I'm wrong in that, Charles, is that part of our responsibility in saying for the current and long term, we have to factor in our decision, even when they meet that, is items such as public safety.
That's correct.
Fair enough. All right, with that being said, further questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none. Let's, we're about to open that up. I see you raised your hand. So if you want to come on up here and be the first, come on up. At this time, we're going to take citizen comments. Anyone wishing to address the commission is welcome and encouraged to do so. And please come to the microphone and name and address for the record.
My name is Corey Duty. I live at 202 Woodlawn Drive, Mount Juliet. I am co-representative for the seller of this property. And I can tell you right now why the city's not getting this project, because the builder or the contractor was jerked around every time they came back with what was asked of them. I mean, you even go to say, well, instead of a berm, you need to put a fence on it. Then on top of that fence, you need to put solar lighting. I mean, you just keep asking and asking and asking. And there comes a point in the time that builders cannot do everything that the city wants to put on their backs. So that's why they had to make a decision as to what was going to be beneficial for them, to buy a piece of property and to build on it. And as far as the WEMA or the fire protection, I live right off of Lebanon Road, and I am in a subdivision that is in the county. I'm surrounded by city, but my service would be county, and nobody's worried about that. You have already stated that the city wants to work with WEMA on the protection services for Mount Juliet. So you've got a year to work that out before you ever have to hopefully not go to that particular subdivision. I think you need to pass this. Thank you.
It's good to see you, Miss Corey. Yes, ma'am. Any additional citizen comments in regards to this item on our agenda? Please. Name and address for the record.
Don Eskew, 101 York Road. We have the 215-acre York Century Farm there on York Road, identified as adjoining property F in your plan. I'm talking about first is York Road itself. It is not configured for the traffic that could come. You can see just Highway 70 is to be down here. Your first curve right down here at the 45 degree, it's partly blind because the land is higher than the road. You get up here, it's a 90-degree turn. This is another less than 90-degree turn, I think you can see. This is blind both ways. The land here is higher than the road. Somebody walking here, a car coming here, could have an incident big time. You get up here, they talk about an EMS gate up here. And Meritage has the West End stations in Lebanon, has the EMS road sign on it, going inside development, sign on the back end, no barrier. Traffic we've seen it passing coming through as we pass on Lebanon Road. So that would put traffic, a sign, they won't stop people. They put traffic here on York Road, this 90-degree turns. Improving York Road a little bit on the end makes no sense. Regulations maybe, but common sense needs to prevail. Sidewalk on York Road, we don't want that. I don't see any sense for it. Sidewalk going to nowhere, as other places have. We prefer a big fence here to separate York Road and in this development. York Road is an unusual situation, thank goodness. And it's like a York Road and any large development, it's like oil and water. They do not mix. So we prefer a barrier here to keep this world here and this world here. And you see, if you've been on York Road, if you know this turn right here, it's blind both ways. If you've been on York Road, I think you've been on York Road. Maybe Diane, you've been on York Road. So that would be could be a disaster in the making, real easy. Pedestrian there. I mean, no more sidewalks on York Road. Chances of York Road going any further seems to be pretty nil from the layout of the land behind it and the city property here. So we would urge consideration to make sure to divide these properties two worlds, as there are two different worlds. Puts a big barrier here to keep this over here and the dogs and keep it from separate over here, and we'll stay over here and that will stay over there. We just don't see them. If they don't have some kind of barrier in MS road, it should be an open road. And folks over here will be coming out this way and creating a lot more traffic, and where York Road is not configured or capable of handling a lot of heavy traffic. That's what I see. We urge consideration of that. I hear what they say, and I hear what Mr. Hefner says, There seem to be a lot of things don't go together for this. We would love to see it just like stay like it is. Wonderful, but something's going to happen some of these days, possibly. The whole world.
Yes.
But that's what I'm seeing right now. And other folks will speak to other issues on it.
Thank you, Mr. Eskew.
If I could, I'd like to make one more point.
Please.
There's been some conversations and questions about the life safety and the WEMA stations and the staffing of the WEMA. Last month, there was a project called Willow Landing that was reapproved again last month unanimously, and it's just up the road from us, just north of us. And there was no questions about life and safety then, so kind of confused of how 30 days later, now there's a life and safety issue on a project that's just down the road from the one y'all approved for the second time last month. Thank you.
Please. County.
My name is Hans Schlegel at 990 York Road. And this is interesting. I didn't know 3 minutes lasted so long. So I'll try to keep mine at 3 minutes. So I'm against this. I'm in the plot. I'm H. I'm right there next to this beautiful plot of land. Now obviously there's been a lot of thought and consideration that's went into this. And I'm in a unique situation where I actually came from a Meritage neighborhood in Hermitage. I was at the reserve there at Stone Hall, lived there for 6 years. It was great. I know that there's a lot on both sides with this, but I'm just against that many homes for a couple of reasons. Commissioner Hefner, I didn't even realize that safety issue. I'm coming at it from a different angle. You guys have that ability to actually do something about this. And it is in that future land map. That's what I just don't, I'm not in agreement with because of the previously established vision for this area, the city of Mount Juliet. My daughter is at West Elementary. And as you guys are probably aware, that's at 108% capacity, 110%. There we go. That's in the county. It is. That's right. That's great. So we're trying to rezone that Bender's Ferry so we can maybe get kids to a different school. Now, according to the Board of Education for Wilson County, at 1.5 kids per household at 210 homes, that's 315 more kids. I don't know where they're going to go because LZ Patton's pretty full, WA Wright's pretty full, and that is a big concern because right now my daughter's in 2nd grade. And her classroom is with 20 other kids in a converted music schoolroom closet. She has no windows outside. Where are we going to put more kids? Right there. Where's the traffic going to go? I don't know. But there's so much more to consider first before we just approve something just to approve it. The other thing I would encourage you guys to consider, and some of you are in law enforcement, I think we're failing to recognize there's a shooting range right there. And I'm not the most experienced, but I would think having a bunch of adolescent kids playing disc golf 400 yards from a shooting range creates a lot of liability for the city of Mount Juliet. Right? But we'll put a sidewalk there to let them walk right down there in the middle of nowhere. That just doesn't make sense to me. And that's something I think that we need to consider. I appreciate the guiding principle from Commissioner Winchester, because when things always are on both sides, it's always good to come back to what is best long-term, what's best currently. And, Mount Juliet, we moved out here. I'm not against developing the land because that's going to happen. I wouldn't be living out there on York Road if not for you guys' planning. But that many homes in that area is, I don't understand how that's going to work right now. We need to build another school. We need to widen the roads. We need to create some contingency plans. we're the number 22 best place to live in America. That's very based on schools and people being drawn to move here. But if they're already over capacity, how can that continue? To me, there's too much ambiguity around it. And we don't have enough knowledge to give us enough confidence to make the decision right now. Brian was great. I appreciate what he shared in that they moved it down from 400 to 300 to 210 homes for an RS30. If I understood him correctly, he said nearly the same density as the county. Well, that's nearly is not the same. So why can't we just bring it down a little bit more so it's actually consistent with the county? When he said not much of a difference, well, that's not being the same. And I just urge you guys to make that decision with that, because from my perspective, I don't have a lot of life yet. I'm missing my daughter's eighth birthday tonight to be here. And that's emotional to me. But hearing this conversation, just because something's legally good to do doesn't mean you do it. When my daughter goes to my wife and says, "Hey, can I get some candy?" And she says, "Oh, I don't know." No. Oh, okay, let me go ask Dad. This is the way I see this, is sidestepping the city to go to the county is very disrespectful. It's not congruent with the long-term vision of the area. And I just urge you we just need more information before we can make a decision. That's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. My name is Michael Smith. I'm at 849 York Road. I'm opposed to this development as well for a lot of reasons. As we all know, as Han spoke to, the schools are extremely overcrowded. If you're talking about this many homes, what's the average kids per household, and where will they go to school? Where will they go to elementary school? Where will they go to middle school? I know you've also addressed the emergency concerns on our police officers, as well as EMS and such. One of the things I dislike the most about this development is the access to York Road with some kind of gate. If anybody has turned onto Lebanon Road off Mount Juliet Road right during rush hour traffic, you literally kind of stop right there about Hardy's Auto Zone, where it bottlenecks as it comes down past the John Deere. It's backed up all the way there. If there was a gate put in this development, gates can open, gates can break. I predict that gate will one day not work. So at that point, York Road is going to become a cut through. Anybody that has traveled this road, or if you haven't, please do. That is very dangerous. Just with increased traffic, with the city property at the end of the road, with dump, waste, whatever, police presence coming up and down the road, everybody in my family has almost had a head-on accident on that road. There is a lot of blind curves, a couple blind hills, so it cannot support any additional traffic at all. It would just be way too dangerous. Like I said, if you've ridden that road, I've about been hit head-on with the few households that we currently have. So with that being said, I'm just adamantly opposed to any kind of access to York Road, because what that's going to turn into is, once some of these young kids figure out that's a cut through to Bender's Ferry to bypass all that traffic, it's going to become a raceway. They're going to fly up and down that road and somebody will get hurt, I assure you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Greg Fast, 451 York Road. So I've lived there 25 years. And, my big issue, and I know the Mosses, appreciate the Mosses and the freedom to develop their land. I think the big issue for me is the access onto York. And with the shooting range, as Hans was saying, and I don't know how that works with noise ordinances and things like that. Scott, what you were saying about the safety issues, I hadn't thought about that. David, you were raising that as well. But, is there a way to protect York? Because I have raised my 6 children there. I now have 8 grandchildren,
and we go up and down York Road on a golf cart upon occasion. So yes, you're right, Mike, the blind curves, and having lived there that long, Don is probably the longer resident, but my sense is it's a York Road issue for me, developing the land, step system, all that stuff. But what can we do to protect York? Okay. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate your care. And I love living here. Have for a long time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
May I speak again, Chairman? Luke?
Please.
May I speak again? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Concerning York Road, what we've configured there with the crash gate and the cul-de-sac, that was just what we worked out with staff. Our access is not there. It's a gate. It's a crash gate. It's for emergency services. All of our access goes to Bender's Ferry, which is a 3-lane road when we're done. If this body has concerns about that connection, we're happy to pull that pavement back further away from York Road. I think staff would probably agree with me. It's probably good to go ahead and still dedicate the right of way. So it'd be grass in essence, and just pull that pavement further away from York Road. If this body has concerns about life safety and, children on York Road or whatever, we have options here to pull away from York Road because it's not a connection to our traffic. It's just for emergency purposes. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the other thing. The shooting range, if you look at our plan, the upper left corner, we have pulled all of our lots away from that area for the same concerns that probably everybody has here. More for noise at this distance, but if you see in the upper left corner where the shooting range is, we don't have homes up in that area. And that is one of the improvements with this plan from previous versions. Thank you.
Sure. No sidebar. If you want to talk to him later, you're welcome to. Further, only one time. That was one time was it. He's the representation to the project. Any additional citizen comments? Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to, just real quick, I know this is running long. I want to address the jerking around comment. Hope that wasn't directed to me. I only met with him once, so. Okay. So, well, and I want to defend our staff because our city and our city requirements, our city standards are, and I think that's where the rub is between the city and the county. Our standards are higher than the county when it comes to, design standards, berms, lighting, when it comes to public safety, roadways, sidewalks. Some of the reasons, I'm not saying that's the reason here, that developers go to the county is because they won't get imposed any of those road improvements on them that the city would impose on them, widening streets, putting in turning lanes. This project came in through a PUD. Those road improvements on York could potentially be worked out. I don't know, Andy Barlow can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but these are some of the reasons why projects go to the county is to avoid those additional costs that they would have to incur if they come into the city. So that, Mr. Cunningham, that may explain why they're not wanting to get annexed into the city is because possibly the road improvements on York Road. So again, another public safety issue and concern I have on top of WEMA, which we don't know if that's ever going to get worked out. We're purely speculating at this point it will. So again, public safety is my number one concern as somebody that's elected official in the city of Mount Juliet that represents the citizens in this city. Public safety is number one, period, for me.
I will note on the York Road, the whole purpose there is, so our public works facilities, we utilize the city's property on York Road daily, many times daily. That's where our brush goes that we use for our collection. And not to mention other activities over there. And so knowing that, we're very familiar with the issues of that. York Road at Lebanon Road is in a floodplain. We've gone through several natural disasters here just in the last 2+ years. We've seen neighborhoods get cut off from windstorms, tornadoes, floods, etc. This is one that does experience the flooding. Anytime Cedar Creek is up, the road is flooded. It's intraversable. That is the whole purpose for that. That is the whole purpose for having that. We're okay with having that be an emergency access only, because we've seen neighborhoods get cut off. Triple Crown, hundreds of homes with one access got cut off twice in 2 months, just because of down trees and things like that. One large tree can cut you off. If somebody has a medical emergency in that time, which is very common, then you've got major problems. And so that's the whole purpose for that. I would definitely recommend we keep that. It can be locked. That's fine. I understand the concerns of the residents. The access is not for this neighborhood. The access is for emergency scenarios on York Road, period. That's it. That's the reason why. Because it's basically a long cul-de-sac. One other thing I did want to mention, to kind of highlight how the sewer system here works. One of the things I was looking at here, all these homes would have, so you may be familiar with our own grinder pots that we have on our properties. I have one at my house. And if you've got an older system in the city, then you have one. It runs off of power. It runs off your own power that you have at your house. These homes are all serviced. Every single home in here is serviced by a grinder pot. So consider this as well. That is a much higher sewer cost. You're talking $100 plus on your sewer bill per month for each one of these homes just to have that service. So it is a much higher cost to the residents to have this service versus being on city sewer. My sewer bill, I mean, y'all may range. You may be 30, 40, 50 bucks, somewhere in that range. High water months could be higher, but I've never had anything that high. But that is very common for a standard single family home to be well over $100 a month. And so consider that, if you will. I know that may not be here or there with our subdivision regulations, but I think it is very important that when we look at these, if their proximity to the city of Mount Juliet, which this is, and has proximity to the sewer service, and how these people will be serviced. So facilities and how we consider facilities is a consideration of this planning commission. And it is something to keep in mind, at least. And I like to think about it from the end user. The end user is each person that's going to be living in one of these homes. How are they going to be positively or negatively affected by the services that this subdivision would provide?
Thank you. Further questions, comments? It's time I'd like to open Commissioner Cunningham.
There was a comment made, the gentleman, what is your name again? Don, you made a comment about another meritage subdivision. I don't know that I put it on meritage necessarily, or somebody did. But I'm sorry, I got you guys confused.
Lanes to the EMS, signs on each end with just no barrier on the inside of the vessel, or that, not the outside.
Okay.
Yeah, regular traffic.
Okay, so where I was going with this is how can we, if this gets approved, I think that the emergency access through York Road, to me, is a no-brainer to have that for the reasons that you mentioned about Triple Crown, for example. You have to have multiple points of ingress and egress for emergency vehicles. So how can we ensure that that's not something that gate or that barrier cannot be broken down, cannot be used? I don't know a lot about these gates. So I assume that's been taken in consideration. But the gate that's at that other meritage subdivision is that, or the no gate. So in this case, there would be a gate. So that would be an upgrade from the no gate. I want to make sure that this is not, I'm very concerned about the citizens of York Road and not having extra traffic on York Road. I don't think the sidewalk does anything for York Road. I think that is a valid point, but that's just my opinion. But I think that we want to make sure that if this does get approved, that gate is something that only emergency vehicles can be used and even pulling the road back a little bit to make sure that that's not going to happen. That we're considering all that.
Please.
You come to the podium if you're going to allow him to speak, so my secretary can get him on record.
Are you done talking to Mr. Eskew?
Yeah.
Or do you get some more questions?
No, and really my questions weren't
Yeah.
directed to Mr. Eskew. It was just that you made a point about a merited subdivision, which was relevant because that's the same builder developer here tonight.
Good points. Good discussion. I'm looking for a motion in regards to this item on our agenda. No motion constitutes an approval. Gotta-
If we'll make a motion,
We
to
done?
go.
Motion to deny.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. That is not a recommend, that's a voting item. So I have a motion and a second for a denial. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. 4, 5. Against? Abstentions? That is a denied application. All right, moving on. Here we go. Ms. Hamlin, would it be, let me ask this question again, would it be appropriate for us to hear items 7.1 and 7.2 together? Or Mr. Collins, that'd be acceptable? Wonderful. No. Any objection to hearing 7.1 and 7.2 together? Wonderful. With that being said, we are going to hear items 7.1 and 7.2 together. Item 7.1 is review the land use plan amendment for Old Friends Senior Dog Sanctuary located at 1440 Nonneville Road. And we'll also hear item 7.2, which will be a recommendation item to review the rezone request for Old Friends Senior Dog Sanctuary located at 1440 Nonneville Road. So we have one voting item as a clarifying and one recommendation item. So if there's a motion made at the back end of this, just remember it's a voting item and a recommendation item. With that being said, Mr. Collins.
Mr. Chairman, as you described the request, we are looking at a land use amendment, which would allow for this request for rezoning to go from a residential RS40 zoning classification to the OPS, Office of Professional Service. Starting with the land use portion of this, the land use plan envisions a continuation of predominantly residential development in this area. If you want to look at it from the future land use map perspective, we do have envisioned approximately the first mile from the intersection of Nonneville Road at Lebanon Road up to northward on Nonneville Road to a stopping point, which coincidentally is at 765 Nonneville Road, which is also the land owned by the Old Friends Dog Sanctuary. This within our future land use plan, we have a beyond that point a predominant residential character that we're envisioning for this area of Nonneville Road. There are two exceptions, of course. If you look at the land use plan, it does envision two parcels, two commercial nodes, if you may, on Saunasville Road as you go further north. As far as the neighborhood commercial vision for that first mile of Saunasville Road from Lebanon Road, that consists of convenience commercial development within a neighborhood setting, and does allow for a vision for office and professional activities. Anything beyond that, as I mentioned, is envisioned for a continuation of residential. Additionally, if we want to look at the city's comprehensive transportation plan, it also it envisions improvements to Saunasville Road by the addition of one lane. However, these improvements have not been implemented. So once Saunasville Road is improved to handle more traffic or accommodate better traffic, then perhaps we might find an opportunity to revisit our land use plan and reimagine what we would like to see for going further north. There are, as already mentioned, two parcels in the general vicinity to the north. One's before you get to Cedar Grove Church Road, and then the other is a convenience neighborhood service zone property that's at that intersection. It's a convenience store, I believe. In staff's opinion, in looking at this land use amendment, we believe this request is out of character with the area's vision, and we respectively do not support the land use amendment. I'll continue with the rezoning part unless you want me to stop there for the moment.
We're good. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. As far as the property in question, it is zoned RS40, which permits single-family residential and related residential activities within this area. Their request is for OPS, which is a office professional service. As I mentioned, by definition in our zoning, it's intended as a transitional area for more intensive commercial activities that occur along major traffic arteries before you get to residential areas. When you look at our zoning map, we have OPS in scattered locations, but they do tend to be focused in just three areas and all three major thoroughfares: Golden Bear Parkway, North Mount Julia Road, and Lebanon Road. Otherwise, OPS is absent in most residential areas, at least in this general area. Saunasville Road is currently categorized as a collector status roadway, which is intended for transporting and circulating residential traffic from local areas to major arteries. It is also worth mentioning, in staff's opinion, that if the rezoning request does go forward to the Board of Commissioners and they approve it, then if later on, so many years down the road, the owner of the property decides to sell the property to another proprietor, then all the uses that are permitted in the OPS can be put there as well. They could change the use to another more commercial activity, and thus you'll have an introduction of commercial within an area like this. So once again, under the rezoning portion, staff respectively does not support this rezoning request.
No, sir.
Just yeah, we love what Old Friends is doing in Mount Juliet, and if you guys are here, hope you come up here and speak. I love what you guys are doing. And you're welcome to come up here and speak as well. So I'll go ahead and call you up here as I say this right here. So I think it's fantastic. You've heard words of praise from me on the things that you guys have done and what you've been here. My support would not be for anything extending past really where you guys are that resembles anything commercial at that point. I have respect for the folks that are down there and whatnot, even though I know that what you guys have is kind of in between that, but it's still a commercial use nonetheless over there. So really I get back to that land use plan amendment that I really can't get over. And then we put a commercial zone over top to just accommodate what you're doing. Whereas I love what you're doing, support what you're doing. But it's one that gives me a little bit of heartbreak of carrying anything further than you guys, in my opinion, should be the last place commercial on Saunasville Road where you are currently right there. So name and address for the record, because there's a lot of people that probably don't know what you guys are doing.
I'm Zena Gooden, 422 Beacon Hill Drive, Mount Juliet. Just to let you know what our plans were. When we moved into our new building on Nonaville, we immediately filled up our administration building, and because we grew considerably between the time when we started construction and ended construction. Our existing building is 100% set up for dogs. The dogs are there. And it just makes sense to us to move administration out of that building to have more room there. In addition, we have another project coming up, which is Flo's Front Porch, which is closer to Lebanon Road, and we have no administrative space there. So we would like to just have a building for 5 to 7 people. Our plans for the house were to leave it essentially as it is. We would be only having about 5 to 7 full-time employees. We're not considering putting any dogs, housing any dogs there. It would be completely administrative. I understand your concerns as well.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for what you guys are doing. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hefner?
Oh, I'm sorry, she's late.
I'm sorry. I thought it was bad.
And I think I'm a big fan
I know.
of what you're doing out there. My question is, and I know this is for an administrative
Yes.
building for
Yeah.
5 people.
Yeah.
On your current property where the dogs are housed, is there consideration or enough property there to build, or on the property where you're building? I keep referring to them as the townhomes for
Not
dogs,
for as
but-
many people. Not for as many people. What we want to do is move our fundraising and marketing people out, which really aren't related to either project. It's purely administrative. They don't need to be near the dogs.
So there's no space on either one of those
No,
properties to
no.
build?
Well, the space that we're using now for administrative at the building we have now is at capacity and also is able to house dogs in the administrative space. So it would suit that space better to take out some administrative people and put them to a place that didn't house dogs, because it's a lot more expensive to house dogs than people.
Sure. Okay. But what I'm hearing is there's not enough space
No,
on your
there's not.
land, on your property to build a new
No.
facility
No.
for administration?
No, there's not.
Okay.
Growing is a good problem.
It is. I'm not complaining about that.
Should this not go through, I hope that you guys are able to find what you're looking for.
We are committed to finding something in Mount Juliet. We've made that
I hope
commitment
so.
already. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Questions or comments from the commission? Please. We'll go ahead and as gentleman's approaching, we'll go ahead and call for citizen comments. Anyone wishing to make citizen comments in regards to this item to the agenda, please come on up to the microphone and name and address for the record.
I'm sorry.
Thank
My
you.
name is Brad Hambrick. I am the current property owner at 1440 Saunasville Road. I actually brought some printouts if y'all don't mind, if I can pass them around.
Please, hand them to Commissioner Cunningham.
So first off, thank y'all for the chance and the opportunity to come in and talk. I appreciate that greatly. A lot of this that I'm going to bring up has already been brought up, but I would just like to touch on it just a touch further. I understand that the city does not wish to pursue zoning past a mile down Nonneville Road from Lebanon Road. So I've done some research on the area, and my address in a straight line distance is 1.16 miles from Lebanon Road. These are all approximations. I'm having to do this off of Google Maps, but 1.16 miles of a straight line distance, 1.3 driving miles. And as it was brought up earlier, there is two plots of land that extend further north on Nonneville Road that are zoned commercial. The first one was it was 1570 Nonneville Road. It is let's see, I have the name written down here. I'm sorry. Volunteer Utility Sales. It's labeled as a plumbing supply store. That is approximately 1,473 feet further north of my house in a straight line distance, and 0.3 miles driving distance, which puts it at a distance of 1.6 miles out from Nonneville Road. The other one is the BP gas station. It is 1.03 straight line distance miles from my residence going northbound. An additional 1.1 miles of driving distance, which puts it at approximately 2.4 miles north of Lebanon Road. Also, next door to me, there is it's not zone commercial, but there's a business operating a basically window sales. There's a building, basically the property north of me. There's a building. There's several commercial sized dumpsters. They've been running a business out of there for, I'd say approximately, I'd say close to 3 years. I think they started about when my daughter was born. 2020. Okay. And to be completely honest with you, I've lived next door with them, and I don't have an issue with them. They haven't caused any problems. They've caused no issues for me. As far as what I've seen from old dogs, they do nothing but better an area that they come into. And I know when I bought that property, it was a mess. I worked my tail off getting it to what it is now. And honestly, I think they're only going to benefit it even more. And I think they'll only benefit the area more. So I just wish for y'all's consideration on that. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Make note of a few comments that you said right there real quick. All of those commercial uses are all county and all predate a lot of what we got going on here. There's actually a few on there that I'm not going to mention that are on Nonneville that currently have a commercial zoning through down Nonneville Road. I don't want to see it redeveloped as commercial, so I'm not going to really share where those are. But yeah, I mean, this is houses. This is what needs to be done down there is houses. So name and address for the microphone.
If I may, were those properties?
We're done.
Hello, my name is Gerald Shuffett, live at 151 Spring Hill Road. Just wanted to remind everyone that this is a residential neighborhood, and this particular property neighbors 4 properties on Spring Hill Road. I don't know how many properties on the other side of neighbors though.
Please.
Good evening. How are y'all? I'm Ray Justice. I'm at a ball game, so I hope you apologize for my voice. The property, most of y'all remember that property being the squatter property. All over Channel 5 News, and Brad and family came in there and turned it into something extremely nice. And it's been appreciated. They've been a good neighbor. They live probably 500 feet from me. I live in that subdivision, and will tell you that property is residential right now, but it and the properties, I think there's one even across the street and up probably 100 feet that is also commercial. Used to be an old barbecue pit that was there. most of you won't remember that, but the zoning still exists. Then the county turned around and zoned another piece of property north of that on the left-hand side, and it's been ongoing for many, many years. This was commercial general, which means they could put anything in there that they wanted to put in. That's been changed, thanks greatly to Jennifer Hamlin, our planning director, who we were able to change some of the zonings to make them a little more amenable to the residential area. What the Old Friends Dog Sanctuary is wanting to do there is to turn that into a piece of property that is going to be basically an office. And if they are able to say that it's not going to be anything but an office, then it's not going to do anything but make the property and the area around it a lot better than what it is today. And it also takes away the possibility of it being turned into something that is not good for the area later on down the road. They do nothing but class work, as you can look and see from what they've already got built on Honorable Road. I was asked by several people whether or not it was good, whether it was bad. I cannot tell you. I can just tell you that I don't think it's bad. I think it actually benefits the area. Like I said, just an area that I live in. If it were going to degrade my property values, I promise you I'd be the first one throwing a fit. It's not going to degrade anything. Yeah, I would ask your consideration, and I would ask you to vote to allow them to put this, put the Old Friends Dog Sanctuary into this location. Thank you.
Judy Hughes, 5451 Lebanon Road, Lebanon, Tennessee. I was just curious, the CG property that is zoned CG just past their home, that is located in the city. Am I correct?
It is. It was zoned commercial in the county before the city acquired the property, so it's grandfathered in. It's had that commercial zoning for years, like
Okay, but
over 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, but the fact is it is in the city, the commercial general. And the market down there was that grandfathered in as well?
No, ma'am, that was granted maybe 15 years ago.
Okay,
under
but
the seat commercial neighborhood services.
But still it's commercial and it is in the city. I'm just asking the question.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm short. Hi, everybody. I'm Kinsey Hambrick, 1440 Nonneville Road. Bradley and myself grew up in Mount Juliet. He played baseball and hockey, won state champion. I cheered at Mount Juliet. We just want the best thing for our community. And when our house went for sale and Old Dogs approached us, it was a lot of thinking on our part because it was a slow contract process to even have them have it, whereas everybody knows everything in Mount Juliet's so hot. We love dogs. And to me, that was my heart and my soul, that I thought that was the best thing for our community, especially right there, being born, bred, Mount Juliet, Golden Bear, right here. That's what I want in my hometown. I don't want more, gas stations, tobacco stores, more neighborhoods, but to actually have something with our dogs. We lost our sweet Annie girl in September, and we'd had her for years. And she was an old dog, could barely get up and down the steps. I was having to literally carry her 75-pound stuff. And it's just, if I can do anything for our Annie girl and just give back to the dogs, that's what we want to do. And for my 3-year-old little girl, who is also going to be a proud Mount Juliet girl, I just want her to be proud of something her parents did. And having something like the Old Dog Sanctuary come into something that we could be a part of, like I said, this is 4 months into us being under contract. That's something that she can be proud of and be like, that used to be my house, and we are now giving back. So I'm here to help. I'm happy to answer any questions, but like I said, we're just the hometown people. We're born and bred from Mount Juliet, and we're not moved from here. And we really want something positive to come out of something that was so nasty and ugly that the squatters did have. And I mean, like Brad said, he literally burned his back with chemical burns trying to get this house looking good. So I just want to thank y'all for your time and how much I love Mount Juliet and how much this community means to me and how much these dogs really mean to me. And my poor little Annie girl, she's in heaven looking down on us, and I hope she's proud of us. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
My name is Janice Von Allman, and I live at 161 Spring Hill Road, which is right around the corner from the cabin. I do appreciate the work that the sanctuary does, but however, I have to agree with the fact that this is a residential area. Spring Hill Road is a 1-lane road That's it. There's no other businesses, anything around that area. And I would ask that you not approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Lewis. I live at 1251 Nonaville Road, which is exactly opposite on the other side of Nonaville from this property. I'm also a local veterinarian at Countryside Animal Hospital. I was honestly just coming tonight for curiosity on what the property was going to be developed as. Since it sounds like the plans are just for offices, I would completely be in favor of something like that as someone who's directly opposite this property, and would much rather have that type of property go through than something else developed down the road. So thank you all very much for consideration.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Oh, Commissioner Rest.
Jennifer, could you just describe the limitations of OPS just to what it can be? I mean, it can't be
It's very
a mini
limited.
Walmart or something like
Correct.
that. What are the
It's
limitations?
literally your office professional services. Brian, if he wants to, while I'm speaking, grab that use listing and we can go over every specific user. It's very limited. So I'll let him go over that with you and I'll look it up. Office professional services, they're not having, do you want to go ahead? Do you want to take it over?
Well, as far as the, I looked at this ahead of time, preparing my notes, and OPS also permits restaurant activities, banking, general business, medical, non-medical services, convenience, retail sales. It is compared to, the interchange commercial and commercial town center and such. It's the non-residential activities are limited, as Jennifer mentioned, but it does permit by right several of the activities that I just mentioned.
That's the only reservations I have. I mean, I love what they're doing. Think it's great what they're doing, but my reservations are 10 years down the road, this becomes another Starbucks.
Permitted by right is professional services, medical and non-medical, like I spoke of previously, and the full service restaurant. That's
Okay.
permitted by right.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? All right. Please, I'm sorry.
So, Brian, Jennifer, that means that in sometime in the future, if they decided to sell that property, someone could put a high-rise office building if it's within the OPS zoning.
As long as they met the size limitations, it's 5,000 square feet. So maybe not a high rise, but they could have. It's a smaller building, but more commercially used than a log cabin for administrative offices.
So my concern is, and I do drive down this road every day, live not far from the gas station that's down there. While there is some of the commercial properties that have been there, we can make a choice whether we're going to continue that or we're going to stop it. I don't want to approve something once that we don't want to do again. I love Old Friends. I think they're great. I have no problems with this organization, but when you go north of that property, there's no shoulders on the roads or anything else. And if we set a precedent where we're going to approve this and this keeps on down the road, we're going to have traffic problems. There's already, issues, concerns about the widening or the traffic that's going to be brought in by Wintry. So that's just kind of where I stand and why I can't vote for it.
Thank you. Commissioner Cunningham, please.
Question for the applicant. So this is going to be, your use would be to have 7 or so office employees here?
Come on up here to the microphone so we can at least have you on the record.
So and where I'm going with that is, so it'd be 7 or so office employees. And I know 4.92 acres, I think, in Mount Juliet is not cheap. What's going to be, so one, there's it doesn't financially to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend that kind of money on something, which I'm not here to criticize your decision on that. But I would think that maybe a smaller, if you're going to have 7 employees, something smaller, commercially zoned already, an office somewhere, why this over that?
We like the location. It's something that we can easily work with our existing building. It's less than a half a mile up the road. And we do want to stay in Mount Juliet, and everything in Mount Juliet's extremely expensive. Being on Nonaville Road is actually less expensive than being on Mount Juliet Road or some of the other areas that would have commercial property or office professional property. The way this house is set up, it's built already. We wouldn't have to build something. The way the house is set up, it's set up with all of the bedrooms and the rooms facing out into a central area. So it's great for an office type environment rather than having more of a regular home setup.
And I'm familiar with this. I've been in the house.
Okay.
So it's a small world. I'm a real estate broker as well. And I had this home listed prior to the squatter taking over. So I'm very familiar with the property. It was beautiful back then, and I'm sure you brought it back to its original beauty. I think, is there, and I don't know the answer, Jennifer, maybe you could assist me with this. Is there a way for us to, because I don't think any of us have a problem with 7 people going to this house to work. We have a problem with what could happen in the future if we rezone this. Is there some type of restrictive zoning we could give only to them in this property?
Well, we went over with their engineering firm, New Hampshire, the possibility of a overlay where we would be able to control those uses. You could literally specify this very use to this piece of property. And that's where I think the sweet spot is for this one is the Pud Overlay. That would be my recommendation, and we've recommended that before to the applicant.
I was hoping something like that was a possibility, so thank you.
You're welcome. But we would need to see plans for that.
Yeah.
That's not something we would do here tonight.
They'd have to bring it into commercial compliance with retention, detention, parking.
Well, a PMDP, much like they did for their cottages.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, it would just be conditional zoning if you added that tonight.
Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Further questions, comments? So since I decided to recommend a hearing vote together, we got a 2 for 1. Get a vote and a recommendation item both together. So I'm going to open the floor for a vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Just ask-
Recommendation. Yeah.
How can we
Please.
help them out and get this conditional use? What is the next step? I mean, if we just vote to deny, they're back to square one.
You deny the land use plan, they're done for a year.
If,
They could defer.
If we defer, that gives them an opportunity to approach from the PUD overlay perspective, which would give them that opportunity to come with a specific use.
Please.
Okay.
If you're looking at a denial, I'd ask that you defer for them to have the opportunity to come back. Y'all know
very
I love
much
dogs
prefer
more than
that.
people. Let's not put a time limit on them so they can have time for their engineering firm to get those plans together. You could just defer it.
Yep.
You don't have to put a time limit on it.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to defer.
Second. Can we make that motion?
Yes, I
or do
believe you
they?
can make that motion. They have previously.
Yeah, you can make a motion. We can't make a motion for an applicant other than the city to defer their item?
You would be deferring the item as opposed to denying it.
Should the applicant come up and ask for a deferral?
Yeah, would it be more appropriate if the applicant desires to defer? Would they?
That works too. That's usually more appropriate for subdivisions, but you know, it works here too.
Okay.
Yes, we'd like a deferral.
That worked a lot better. Thank you. Thank you. That is a deferral of 7.1 and 7.2. Thank you, guys. And thank y'all for what y'all have done up there at the house. I totally agree. And I knew, as Darren once had it listed, I knew the people were close friends of mine that originally built it. So I've been in it as well. Yeah. Yeah. Good people.
Everybody's not been in it.
Yeah.
Raise their hand.
Everybody was great there, apparently, except for the one squatter. Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, they deferred. No vote. Nothing to vote on since they deferred. Yeah.
I'm glad we pulled that out.
So let me ask again. I think this one would be more appropriate. Would 8.1 and 8.2 be appropriate to hear together
Site plan and grading plan?
or separate?
It's one.
Is it? So this one would be more appropriate. All right. Fair enough. Any objection to hearing 8.1 and 8.2 together?
No.
Seeing no objection to that, we'll hear 8.1 and 8.2 together. Item 8.1 is review the site plan for the Shiloh Baptist Church, new building located at 1544 Pleasant Grove Road. Item 8.2 is review the grading plan for the Shiloh Baptist Church, new building located at 1544 Pleasant Grove Road. Mr. Collins.
Mr. Chairman, for those of you that are familiar, we discussed this from an annexation and plan of services in previous last month's meeting. Staff had briefed you on the Board of Zoning Appeals previous action in March, which was to approve the conditional use for a religious facility at the site. Of course, the Board of Commissioners' adoption of the annexation and rezoning to RS40 is in the final stages, as best staff understands this. So if you are inclined to approve this site plan tonight, that in part it should be conditioned on finalization by the Board of Commissioners of the annexation and rezoning. Staff has reviewed this site plan, and the revisions that were made to it appear to be mostly addressed of staff's concerns. However, there are 9 conditions that staff recommends to be addressed and corrected as listed in our staff report. As far as the one of those items in particular, they have to do with the elevations, the architectural exterior. We do require in our standards 100% brick or stone, particularly when it's visible from the street. The Planning Commission, of course, can waive this requirement and allow alternative materials or a lesser percentage of brick and stone. The applicant has requested a waiver to this requirement. As I understand it, the Planning Commission has been inclined to grant a lesser percent. I believe 10% has been a number that you've felt comfortable with, but it is, of course, your discussion item to determine if it's the conditions merit that. The landscape plans, according to staff, the plans are still under review by the city's consultant. Staff has recommended applying level B landscaping in certain locations where the need is greatest. Those areas that are the existing conditions are weak for existing vegetation where it abuts a residential development. I think as far as overall, staff favorably recommends the site plan approval pending these remaining items, as well as the Board of Commissioners' actions for rezoning and the annexation. For the grading plan part, I'll certainly yield to Public Works or any other city staff to talk about that.
Thank you. Mr. Barlow?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to first off commend the engineer did an excellent job on this plan. We've been working with them. It's a very complete plan. And so excellent job on that, working with the applicant as well. And so on a number of issues, one of which sewer, which way to go with it. I believe we have a really good plan for that to serve them with sewer. Additionally, I know some concern has been over Pleasant Grove Road itself. So we are in the early planning stages, I would say early design stages maybe, of Pleasant Grove Road improvements. We've recently contracted with an engineer on that, going through the process. Mr. Rast may have some familiarity with the project on that. So Pleasant Grove Road is in our capital plan for widening. The plan for that is according to our transportation plan, 4-lane median divided roadway, basically exactly what Pleasant Grove Road already is, carrying it south, modernizing some standards on it, obviously, some access standards, one of which I did want to point out. I've actually talked with the engineer about this. It is our initial plan, which by the way, we will be having a public meeting on that in the coming months to go over alternates and the plan itself on that. But the southern access is likely going to end up being a right in, right out because of the proximity to Central Pike. The TDOT brand new access manual really spells that out. It makes for a much safer consideration. The northern access would be a full access. So they'll have a left turn lane, they'll have a left out, so they will retain that full access there. So just wanted to kind of highlight, I think, some of the future, consider as well Central Pike interchange improvements. Long term for this, when all the public improvements are done, I think this is going to work very well with the public transportation system. Yes. Oh, yeah. Shane made a good point. So their southern access can be built today as shown. So until the roadway project comes through, that would be a full access, but it would be modified with the construction, our construction. So that's all.
And they have agreed to police.
Yes. Yeah. So I did talk with their engineer about that as well. And he could probably elaborate some on that. So the villages at Pleasant Grove, prior development plan this commission has seen, is tasked with doing safety improvements at the intersection of Pleasant Grove and Central Pike. We're working with them on what that looks like. Going to be bringing something back to this commission as far as how that needs to be done. I think it's probably going to be a little bit more of an interim vision on how that gets to be done. We don't want to throw good money after bad for them to do something and TDOT come and rip it out. So just full transparency on that. So the time frame for that is next summer. And it's August 1st. However, it's probably going to be tied to them getting a building opened. So I don't know if they're going to be ready for it then or not, but that's the timeline as it sits today for the improvements. And so with that in mind, there probably is going to be a small gap between when this would open and when those improvements, that safety improvement will come in. They have, and I would like to let them give confirmation on that, but committed to having a flagger or, I guess not necessarily the flagger, but traffic control personnel on Central Pike. To do it safely, you probably need somebody stopping people at the top of the hill and another person down at the intersection. But we will work with them on that as far as how that would happen. So they have committed to that. I think they understand the situation and where they're at coming in a little bit before. And I wouldn't recommend them doing anything with the other improvements already on the hood. So I think they're in good shape from that perspective. So yeah, no other comments on that.
One quick question for you, Annie, on that right in, right out, do we need to add that as a note or condition to this just to make sure that is not only agreed on? Because I know we got some, sounds like more of a verbal agreement to me.
Yes.
Should we add that at this point in time?
I think it would be advisable to go ahead, formalize that. And again, we've not finalized our plans or We don't even have an approved alternate yet for the roadway itself. But I think we could make some statement of that being a future ride-in route pending plans approval of Pleasant Grove Road improvements.
Yeah, just in case anybody, people change at the church or
Sure.
people change within staff itself, or this body changes as well. Just that it's out there as a continuing note on that.
Yes.
And then I don't see, I guess for Mr. Collins, I don't see the variance request in our notes right here. Do we know that percentages that are being requested for us from a variance? I don't see it on a planning note or a variance request within my notes. I got the elevation, therefore the applicant has requested a waiver to these regulations, but I'm not really being told.
You actually were told, but our staff reports disappeared the day that they were to be printed, so we recovered them for 3 days prior. And we didn't have any more hours to put into those.
Did you? So
that was fun.
For our purposes.
Sure. So if you check out
requested?
A5.1,
Okay.
you will see that on the north elevation, they are asking for 52% siding. On the east elevation, 15%. On the west elevation, 65%. And on the south elevation, 52%. That is on sheet A5.1.
So it's 50, 15, 65, 52?
Yes, sir.
All right. Perfect. Let's go ahead and ask for, actually one thing, just make sure it's in the records for that Commissioner Weathers had to step away from the meeting. Perfect. So make sure we got that on record. Second thing is questions, comments from the commission real quick. Seeing none, let's go ahead and ask for a representation of this project. Microphone and name and address for the record.
I'm a civil engineer and representing the civil engineer Michelle by the church. And we also have with us here tonight. Haven't answered any questions.
I got a
Please,
question.
Commissioner Rest.
Not really a question, more just a request. Could you just share with the folks here about the building and who's doing it and how all that came about? The BZA heard that before, and I think it'd be good for these folks to hear that as well.
Okay, sure. I think it might be a little beneficial for the architect to discuss that part of it, so I'll turn it over to him.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Wayne Oakley, Steel Oakley Architects, 233 Legends Drive, Lebanon, Tennessee. The church is currently working with a group out of Georgia that comes in and helps religious facilities with their construction. They're going to, we're hoping that they will be able to come in September and start framing walls and things of that nature. So as far as there will be a general contractor who will be on the project, that permits and everything will be through them. And then, of course, site grading, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and the slab, and depending upon the structure type, if it's a steel structure, that will be by the general contractor. But if it's a wood structure, the group out of Georgia will come in underneath that, the permit of the general contractor there. So we're actively working with them and trying to hit that time frame so that they could come in. They initially wanted to come in July, but just the entire review and permit process that would, and then construction, that was just not possible. So we're looking for September on that. Is that
what you were looking for?
Yeah. I just thought it was a great story at the BZA about how they were coming up and doing a lot of pro bono work and they show up in force.
That group actually reached out to the church. They found the church instead of the church finding them. And so they really think that this, obviously is the work of God and putting this whole thing together.
Yeah. Thank you.
Real quick for you, Wayne, you're going to do lap hardy. Is that what you're requesting on here?
Something similar to Hardy. Yes, it'll be a cementitious siding. I don't know if it'll actually be a Hardy product or another brand, but yes. Speaking on the architectural materials, when I first got involved with the project, the building committee really reinforced the fact that they really wanted a kind of a rustic looking facility. They wanted a lot of natural light for obvious reasons. So that's one reason. If you also look at those tables that Ms. Hamlin referenced, the window and doors on the north elevation, that's 27%. And then on the east elevation, 31% is windows and doors. On the west elevation, we're 21. And then on the south, we're 19%. So there's a large percentage of the building facades that are openings, whether they're doors or windows. And also I know, unfortunately, most times you guys do not get to see the floor plans that go along with these elevations. But the east elevation that will be facing toward Pleasant Grove there, that currently will be their sanctuary space. So the cross there with the windows and everything, that will be the backdrop of the stage area that is in the sanctuary worship space there. The west elevation, which would be opposite, would not be seen from Pleasant Grove. That is where future additions are going to take place. The master plan that we kind of have for this would be additional classrooms on the west end and also on the south, somewhat on the south side as well. And I guess a third phase to the master plan right now would be a future larger worship center that would be further west. And then the worship space that we have at the east end will become more of a family life type center space there for that as well, fellowship space and things of that nature. So on the west elevation, one of the reasons we wanted to keep the masonry down, obviously it doesn't face toward the road, but also that the materials on that facade will be coming off when we do the future addition there. And we did, after discussing with the staff on the east elevation, we did add more brick on that facade. We also added a stone for the pilaster elements that you see there on the east, the north, and the south elevation there. Once again, we kept the pilasters off the west elevation just simply for a future addition, which they anticipate not being too far down the road. But that's, we have the clear story windows. They'll kind of be the spine of the building and also would be in the worship space as well. So that's kind of where the materials came from.
The brick, though, on the east elevation is real brick, hand-laid brick.
It is a full width brick, yes. And the stone base will be as well. It is not a lick and stick or what you want to call it. It'll be a full 4-inch, 3 5/8 inch deep stone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very good. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I just have one comment. What is and I think we did the math on it. What are we, about 400 feet off of the road? That roughly? And I'm referring specifically to the variance requests on the material, the brick.
Yes, it's approximately 400 feet, I think, off the road. And also about where the building front is going to sit, that's kind of a crest of the hill.
Right.
So it will
kind of fall off on the backside there a little bit as well.
Yeah, I'm normally not big on variances of this, the size.
Yes.
This is pretty significant, but given the fact that it's that far off the road and you can't see it.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I would support that for sure.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See no additional questions, comments this time. Let's call for citizen comments. Any citizens wishing to make comment are welcome and encouraged to do so. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Please, Commissioner Searcy.
My question is on the comments about the Bozer. Since there was a modification of the sanctuary and we voted on 350 seats and they're asking for 437. Is that conditional use permit? Is it still good? We didn't vote for 437. So how you do that?
Right. Well, they're still okay on the acreage, but did the condition of approval say 366 seats?
That's a good point.
Will they have to come back before the board again?
Let's see, as far as view of the recollecting the conditions, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. That's
Charles is gonna look up
one to
that,
think about.
what got approved. Charles is gonna look
Okay.
if it indicated a seat amount. I don't think it did. They have the acreage. So in our zoning ordinance, your number of seats is based on your acreage.
Right.
So I think we went in that direction for that.
From what I'm recalling
I don't
about
remember
the
a seat count. He's gonna look it
conditions, I don't
up.
remember the seat count and being in the conditions.
If I recall, it was some property supposed to be given to them, another 10 acres or something.
It's
Did that
two
happen?
parcels and they're gonna combine them.
Okay, and that was gonna make 10 acres, right?
They have 26, almost 27 acres.
27.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But we still have to vote on the,
Charles is gonna look up to see specifically what BZA approved on the motion, but I don't think it was limited to 356 seats from my memory, but I'm getting on up there in age, so I can't remember.
Meetings online.
That's okay. I can go look.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Well, Ms. Hamlin is going to do that. So hopefully it's been a long minute. We're going to take about a 5-minute recess real quick. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting in order to take a 5-minute recess. Let everybody stretch your legs for a minute. All right, thank you all for your patience. Greatly appreciated. Everybody got to stretch your legs, so here we go, home stretch. With that being said, I will open the floor to Ms. Hamlin to address Commissioner Searcy's question.
So we found the findings from the meeting, the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, and it is not restricted to 350 seats, but we did restrict the acreage to a minimum of 7.5. So we're good to go. Yes, sir.
All right. Very good.
I just want to make sure.
That's a good question. No, appropriate. Any additional questions or comments? That being, yeah, we've already done citizen comments. Yeah. With that being said, I'm looking for a motion in regards to these items on our agenda. We are voting for 8.1 and 8.2 together.
Motion to approve, based on recommendation.
Good. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, may I make one amendment to it?
Let's see what it is.
I would like to add the condition about what
Right in,
Commissioner
right out.
Barlow discussed on that right in, right out, whenever that's complete, just to make sure it's within this approval document itself. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Okay. I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? So approved. If there is no objection, I would like to move 9.3 and 9.4 up in lieu of a request. Any issues with us here going ahead and hearing 9.3 and 9.4? I would like to hear 9.3 and 9.4 together. Any objection to us doing so?
Why are we doing that?
Thank you, guys. With that being said, our next item up on the agenda will be 9-3 and 9-4. Both the recommendation items back to the Board of Commissioners. Item 9.3 is review the preliminary master development plan for Gateway Business Park located at 5158 Beckwith Road. Item 9.4 is review the rezone request for Gateway Business Park located at 5158 Beckwith Road. Ms. Collins.
Chairman, as far as the request at hand here, looking at it from the land use plan, the plan envisions this area for interchange commercial for lands abutting the Beckwith Road interchange, which this request and staff's opinion is compatible with this land use designation. The property in question is currently zoned RS40, and the applicant's requesting CI Pud zoning change. The interchange commercial permits a number of commercial activities that includes restaurants, retail sales and service, hotels. Adjacent, just directly to the north, the adjacent parcel is zoned CI Pud, and another parcel that's just directly above this one, which is the convenience store property, is zoned CI, as well as multiple parcels across Beckwith Road is zoned CI also. From the preliminary master development plan perspective, the applicant's proposing a three-phase, 5 subdivision lot development, which will include in the first 2 phases a power sports dealership and service, mixed commercial retail and sales, and a hotel. The third phase will be the 2 restaurants that are proposed back closer to Beckwith Road. The applicant has so indicated in writing that they are requesting some flexibility for there's 2 variances that they're requesting for signage. They're, of course, requesting 2 additional signs to add to the collective 6 times signs total for the power sports building, as well as a request for flexibility for a monument sign to be placed on Lot 3, which is the overhead TVA power lines crosses a good portion of this lot. Their request in that flexibility for the signage is to exceed the height allowance for monument signs and to increase the square footage of that sign 8 additional square feet for a 48 square foot size. Normally, for your information, signs are a separate planning department review item, but this is under a PUD review, which brings it under the purview of the Planning Commission to weigh in on the variance request. With this particular variance on the signage, staff does not have any reservations with the request if you're inclined to grant this. As far as other variances here, we have the variance on elevations where they're proposing metal awning allowed for all the buildings proposed, and for allowance of Nichita fiber panels, which are very much cement fiber panels, much like we're accustomed to. Using those for a small percentage of accent usage, as well as they're also wanting flexibility on the color choices that they're looking at black, white, red, and blue. And, given the intent with the awnings and the Nichita panels preference, as well as their choice of colors, staff does not have any objection to this request. As far as this other variance with off-street parking, and this is focused on Lot 3 and its proposed mixed use, they're looking for a reduction of 11 parking spaces due to the mixed use nature that they're proposing. With the parking formulas that we have and the uses that they're looking to put here, they would need under our zoning standards a minimum 100 spaces, but instead this flexibility to reduce it to 11 would bring that parking total to 89 spaces on Lot 3. This one staff does not support, and that's the reasonings for that is that the site and its commercial activities, they benefit from not only for a practical and ergonomic perspective, the need to accommodate customer parking, but there's also a need for providing enough space for loading spaces because they're going to be getting deliveries for these commercial activities. So, this design as it's shown on Lot 3 does not leave much room for loading spaces as well as, the adequate parking spaces they need for customers. Staff does suggest that in lieu of granting the parking variance, we do encourage the applicant to consider either eliminating one business unit, perhaps move that proposed drive further south to enable or parking area potential, or there could be a reexamination of their detention facilities. They have, according to the plans, they have as many as 3 proposed for this site. So those are some thoughts for the applicant to consider and exhaust their options. And of course, they'll have their opportunity to explain that they did exhaust the options, or maybe they didn't think of one that staff has suggested. So that pretty much takes care of those 5 variances that were requested. Staff also has a suggestion when it comes to the pedestrian accessibility to these future restaurants that are proposed for lots 1 and 2. Even though they are, that is proposed for the third and final phase of this development. If you've noticed on the plans, the sidewalk that they're proposing runs just on one side of this drive, and it's on the north side. The 2 restaurants are going to be on the south side of this drive. So certainly for ease of pedestrians that are coming from the hotel or from the other commercial retail, they should have an opportunity to be able to cross the street with a little bit better access point. Other than that, if the Planning Commission is inclined to, recommend this rezoning and preliminary master plan to the Board of Commissioners, staff does recommend conditional approval, meeting our 14 remaining items, including these variances. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Barlow, anything you wish to add from Public Works?
I just want to point out, so the intersection of Beckwith Road and Golden Bear Gateway, based on the traffic study, is already warranted today. And so I know there's probably some concern or maybe some questions potentially on that. Public Works comments did one letter that A through F. I'd like that to be phased as much as possible. I think the hope there is I don't want the applicant to throw good money after bad and have improvements go in that would have to be removed when relocated later. So at a minimum, obviously the signal's warranted there today. Any additional traffic burden, we just can't be comfortable without having a signalized access there and then a southbound left turn lane. Understanding, of course, that if we were to receive another development proposal north of this or north and west, that would create better connectivity, that they could have that full access, absolve them of these comments. I think that would be a better scenario. So there's a little bit of sort of unknown, I guess, as far as when the improvements could or would take place. I think we want to try to phase that, to kick that can down the road as much as we can. I think, looking at the comments in there, the right turn deceleration lane from basically, if you're coming from the interstate to Beckwith Road, that's really going to be their permanent improvement that you're going to find there. So, but it's just the nature of the land. I think from a traffic perspective, the power sports facility is very good user for this location. That's a very low traffic generator in the peak hours during the week. And so similarly, hotels of the same accord. And so those two uses, I believe, are very good uses here in this location. Of course, so I think those when those come in, you would have hopefully by the time the restaurants and things were able to come in later, that we would have some other opportunities there where that traffic burden would not be placed on this intersection. So not to belabor that too much there, but just wanted to highlight that. We did ask them for connectivity. It's hard to see from the color. It's actually underneath the TVA lines, connectivity to the parcel to the north. So if and when that was to develop, that we would want to see that cross connectivity, not just utilized by Beckwith Road, but along this area, because I think there's a high chance for some cross commercial uses between these sites, and we want to see that. We want to see that cross connectivity because I think that really lends to the viability of the site and the commercial uses here. So, other than that, no other comments or questions.
Wonderful. It's a good one. Questions, comments from the commission? I have a few, but mine would be for representation. So do you have some for staff or representation? Please, Commissioner Hefner.
Andy, I noticed, and we talked about this the other day, the retention ponds, where they're asking for a variance on the parking spaces.
Yes.
There's a detention pond that's to the south. Right here. Have you reviewed this? Is it a pond?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Is
was
that
talking to
needed?
Shane there. Sorry about
Is
that.
that needed? The detention pond, could that be,
Well, so
or
we
can
don't
it be moved rather?
Yeah, we don't require the drainage reports with the PMDPs. That would come in later. I think it's very, obviously you look at the fall of the land, the streams all fall to the north. So the drainage should fall to the north. I would think that you would have the detention on the back side of the building, and not necessarily on the front side. But that's just thinking about the general lay of the land right now. Yeah, each lot's got its own detention. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It could be something that could be worked out.
I think it could, yes. I think there's some opportunity there.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
There's no additional questions this time. Let's call for representation to this item, please. And microphone and name and address for the record.
Alan O'Leary, WS Engineers and Surveyors, 2486 Nashville Highway. Here representing the owner, the purchaser of the property, the developer. The main push for this project is the power sports, of course. That's the needing property. He needed a place to go. So that main push for this whole endeavor is the power sports. He's the person purchasing this and developing it. Without going into too much detail, kind of going through our variances, I'll let Sam talk about the building variances that we're wanting to get. And I think we provided color elevations, and I think they complement well. The main thing on the lot 11 or lot 3 with the 11 parking spaces, it was absolutely a thought of that was a multi-use building, different users at different times would warrant the not needing the full 100 spaces. If the commission requests, I think we could make it work, but it was just it laid out well the way it was. And as Public Works said, we didn't do a drainage report yet. So all the detention areas on there are hopefully bigger than what they need to be. So, or it can, maybe I'll do away with something, but Sam, I'll let you talk about the building and the signage variance, if you would.
Sam Anderson with Anderson Architects, 48 West Caldwell Street here in Mount Juliet. The Nichiha panels, I'm not sure I'm saying it right either, but they're similar to hardy plank siding, cementitious wood fiber product that's been pressed under pressure or whatever. This is about 3/8 thick, maybe that not that much. The Nichiha is about double the thickness of it. This is like a mirror finish. We had this at Hawks Landing Shopping Center down the way. We have that with the white and black is at Hawks Landing. And then they make accent colors, obviously, red, blue, custom red, so we can use the stock colors on that, but it's hung on a clip system. It's like a rain screen product. It's a really advanced product. It came from Europe originally. It's cement, wood fibers, fly ash, a couple other ingredients in an autoclave, and it's durable. It's attractive. If you go look at Hawks Landing, that place has been up probably a year at least, and you look at the black mirror, like granite kind of look to it, it still looks great. The Dollar Tree that you allowed us to renovate has the kind of rock face panels on the side. So the Dollar Tree was a metal building that got raised up 3 feet, and turned into the store there. And I think it looks great. So it's an attractive product. We're using it for punch. This is a power sports building. There may be a Honda dealership part of it. They're going to want the red. And so, we don't want to paint brick or something like that. This is a good product that we think would serve it well. So I can pass around the samples if anyone wants to see them, or anyone want to take a look at them. You good?
Very familiar with it.
Good.
I hope you find it. Good luck. Nichiha is very hard to find, and you are saying it properly. It's Nichiha.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So just remember, you're committing to Nichiha. So I wish you the best at finding it.
do we want to?
I wish you the best at finding it.
Well, it's a good product, but
Yeah, it really is.
the other option I think would be an ethos type product, which or synthetic stucco.
I like your niche.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll stick with that.
Yeah.
Make sure we can get it right.
Yeah, I
as far
would.
as the sign variants, we looked at Rocky Williams just as an example. They had, I think the max you can have on a building is 4. I think Rocky Williams had 6, but we're using that as a kind of an example of letting us have a variance to put the names of the motorcycles or, Polaris on the buildings, typical of what you'd see on a motorsports type of building, Honda, and then his name, of course, is going to be mid 10 Power Sports. So we want to have some signs on it. I don't think, and the building's big, so it's not like it's just plastered with signs. We just need a little more leeway with the signs if that's possible. And then the signage to the retail center is within the power line setback thing or whatever. And as I understand it, it can only be 6 foot tall. So we got, we have a real low, I think your regs allow us to go 7 feet. Well, we can't even go that high. We're 6 feet. Spread it out. We've got 4 4-foot panels. So that's 16, that's 32, another 16, 48. I'm just working the geometries here. You can make us go to, 40 square feet if you want, but everybody would be happier if we had 48. So just saying. I think that's it. Any other questions?
Mine are back for the engineer. Thank you, Sam. A couple questions that come up to me just looking at the preliminary and master development plan, particularly paying attention to, I gotta get your lot numbers. Was it 5 and 3? Your first phase development? Yeah, I said, okay. Dumpsters.
Dumpsters?
Yeah.
Yes, we will have dumpsters.
Where are they going to be? And how are you going to hide them? Particularly on lot 3.
I know on the Power Sports, we got one shown at the northeast corner of the building over there.
Okay.
Along
That's
that
it.
round area.
With you.
Yeah. Right beside the TVA line going through there.
So you can put it right in the middle of your development. So you're going to have to tell me how you're going to hide that thing because that is not going to be attractive. Yeah. Good luck finding it. Good luck finding it.
He said it, not me.
Yeah. And then how are you going to get your dumpster or get the truck in and out of that? That's going to be tighter than what it looks like on paper. So how are you going to really realistically do an enclosed dumpster? How are you going to get that out? So that one is confusing me a little bit right there. I hope that we can find a little bit better place for that dumpster and obviously a little bit better place for that driver of that dumpster guy that's going to be hauling and returning because I think we can find something a little bit better there. I'm willing to let you work with staff on that, but not really excited about that location. And I agree. I would love to see you bring your parking back up because I think staff's brought a good point up to that. One of the things that we try a lot to do, and you've gotten into compliance by, as Mr. Barlow said, you have the sidewalks all the way through the north side right there. I have a tendency to agree with Mr. Barlow because if you do this Power Sports building, I mean, even if you're not into it, you're going to probably want to go down there with this design to check out what they got. I mean, he doesn't live something cool and fast. And then if you got a hotel sitting right there, you're going to have that. And then we're going to have restaurants up front. And that's not a far walk right there. And then whatever convenience retail you're going to have. So I too would love that walkability of this right here. I think you've done a good job laying your site out. But one of the things I would love to see is just on lots 1 and 2. I agree with Mr. Barlow. I'd love to see sidewalks on the south side of the road as well. And maybe as you come down to that, to your third access point or the southerly most access point of lot 2, and wherever you want to put this. But I'm kind of thinking of a way to get them back to the north side. And I'm going to lean on Mr. Barlow for this. Probably the first time he's ever heard me say this right here. But a raised crosswalk is a possibility right there. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, man, I've won something tonight. But a raised crosswalk or something can act as a traffic calming device. And so, I mean, there's not going to really be any need for a light right there, but just some way to safely get your traffic. If I'm there at the hotel, I want to walk to eat instead of getting into my car. Or maybe I just at the hotel because, you know, I Ubered there, taxied there because it's convenient to the airport. And I mean, heck, if you build your hotel like this, that'll be really nice. But just a way to make that happen. It's kind of an incremental expense, but I think it would be a great move for the walkability and functionability of the site as a whole and help slow down traffic and get pedestrian traffic. So that's one of the things that I would like to see and brought that back up. And those are,
I don't see that being a problem.
yeah, I figure it'd be a pretty easy one right there and benefits everybody.
Yep. And with the dumpster thing, I sounds like the parking's probably not going to happen. So when we reconfigure with the parking, we'll work on that dumpster location.
We'll
and
let
stuff.
you work through staff on that.
Okay.
Further questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Hefner.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I got to meet the applicant last year. He came to me. This does fall within my district. So I appreciate him coming and talking to me first about this. I was really excited about it. The location where this development's going in is perfect for the use cases. A hotel, if you don't know, the hotel tax goes to fund Mount Juliet City Parks. Of course, who doesn't want a power sports dealership? So some big names. I don't know if I can mention them, but really excited about that aspect of it. And I actually asked for the restaurants, the commercial retail up front. That was my ask.
Yes.
So I was very excited and happy to see them come in with those parcels. And the reason why, we have a lot of workers that work in that corridor, and right now they're going to 109 to buy their lunch, and so the city's losing a lot of tax dollars to that. So there's another project coming up next that I made the same request to. So overall, I love this project. I'm sure all the details will get worked out. So really looking forward to seeing this come to fruition. So appreciate all the hard work on it.
Thank you. Just a little side note, we did work with the property owners to the north of us with that Shell station with their entrance. There was like a little finger that came down in front of this lot. So, working with them, we was able to I think make that a little more continuity in that area instead of the way it was. So we really, the realtor, we had them work with that and work with staff. Your staff's great here. I want to say that they're real good to work with.
Yeah, when I first looked at your plan, you can tell, you had to move your building over there to get your building to fit in there.
Yeah.
But you aligned the drives up, which I thought was well done. Questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none at this time, we'll call for citizen comments in regards to these items on the agenda. Any citizens wishing to make comment are welcome and encouraged to do so. Seeing no citizen comments at this time, these are two recommendation items back to the Board of Commissioners, and I am looking for a recommendation in regards to items 9.3 and 9.4.
Motion for positive
Please.
Sure.
The hotel shall follow our hotel motel regulations regarding room numbers, et cetera. I just wanted to make that note.
Okay.
Shall comply with hotel regulations. It's freestanding ordinance.
Got a second? Can we add that condition that sidewalks also to be located on the south side of whatever the road is in front of lots 1 and 2, and then a raised crosswalk at the southerly intersection of lot 2 as well?
Yes.
Would that be acceptable?
Yes.
And then the other thing in your motion, you're granting the variance on the facade for Building 5, and you're granting the
correct.
variance for the monument sign,
Correct, the signs.
but declining the variance for the parking. You're not allowing the parking to be underspaced.
Correct, but I assume that will be worked
But
out.
with staff.
Correct.
Yeah, they'll just get into compliance.
Correct.
Is that okay?
Yes, that is okay. Thank
Very
you.
well.
Thank you for summing that up.
Yeah, yeah. I got notes. That's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against, abstentions. That is a positive recommendation. Next up on our agenda. If there's no objection, I'd love to hear these two together. Item 9.1 and 9.2, one is a rezone request, the other is preliminary master development plan. Any objection to us hearing those together? No. Seeing no objection, both of those are also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. Item 9.1 is to review the rezone request for Project Jolene, located at the southeast corner of Golden Bear Gateway and Athletes Way. Item 9.2 is also a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners, is to review the preliminary master development plan for Project Jolene, located at the southeast corner of Golden Bear Gateway and Athletes Way. If you only knew how hard it was for me to say that and not sing that. I know. I got the microphone too. It was very tempting. Miss Hamble.
Presented a very preliminary drawing probably a year ago to us, and I was like, no. I'm so done with warehouses along Golden Bear Gateway. That's not what that road's designed for. Could you give us some retail or restaurants or some services provided? As Scott mentioned, we have so many warehouses over there and no establishments for them to visit other than 109, and we're losing a lot of money that way. So I thank them for working with us on that aspect. This project is on about 47.5 acres, and they are requesting a rezone to an IR PUD from OPS and RS40 straight zone. They are requesting a total of just over 463,480 square feet of warehouse buildings. That's between the two buildings there and 7 out parcels. At staff's request, the applicant has removed industrial type uses from out parcels A through G, and they have a listing on, I believe, the second page to show you what uses have been removed. So there will be only commercial uses allowed in A through G. The applicant has requested a variance, several, and if you would like me to read those, I can, or you can follow along in our staff report. Number 1 is the location of the Spine Road and access to Rutland Road. In our zoning ordinance, it requires a 100-foot setback when you abut RS40 for industrial zoning, and they have asked to reduce that to 10 feet on the Spine Road. So they're in that lot G. You see how close the Spine Road is to that RS40 zoning, which is that Rutland Church. So staff does not support that unless significant landscaping or fencing, treks, or the like is proposed to screen from the church Spine Road. And I have received an email stating that they agree to continue working with staff on the Spine Road alignment, connection to Rutland Drive as related to screening for this feature throughout the FMD process, should you move this along. The second waiver is for a type D buffer on that Spine Road. So considering, again, it's RS40 to IR, they would need a type D buffer. Well, with 10 feet, you can't hardly get that in there. So they've requested a variance to that with supplemental landscaping and fencing and those types of other screening mechanisms. The third one is a modified D buffer in lieu of, which is 50 foot in lieu of the 100-foot unobstructed, which again is that all to do with the variance, or I'm sorry, I can't even talk, 100-foot setback between RS40 and IR. So you'll see that hatched area around the church. Does everybody see that? That's going to be 50 feet is what they're requesting in lieu of the 100 feet. Again, we talked in our tech review about possibly berming that, but it would actually be more detrimental to do that as to the ground that they'd have to disturb for that. So we have asked for fencing or other type of screening in that area should you approve tonight. They are asking for building material variance for A and B. They're wanting to do the tilt up or the precast, which is very similar to the area. Staff supports that. And a landscaped berm is also required as an industrial zoning. But we have considered that A through G, those out parcels will be buffer enough. So staff does recommend that you pass that along with a positive recommendation as well. Other than that, if you don't have any other questions for me, if you support this project and want to move it along, we recommend a positive recommendation to the BOC.
Mr. Barlow?
Thank you, Chair. I did want to highlight, so we issued our comments and then had some further discussions earlier this week about the, I think more just trying to clarify some of the conditions before it comes to this board as well as the Board of Commissioners. And so we have at your desk a printout with some proposed corrections or clarifications, I guess, on some of the comments. Really, it pertains to comment number 1. So this being the most recent industrial and warehousing distribution type development since Amazon, we wanted to try to compare. So Amazon did some pretty substantial monetary contributions to East Division Street improvements, which is offsite type improvements. They had all their on-site stuff, and then they had significant amount of that, and then they also had some of the offsite. That project ended up being far more complex, I would say, and expensive than the money that they had. We took that donation. The value of that was $7 million, and took that, roughly came out to about $2 a square foot. So we try to calculate that and go apples to apples. There's a couple different ways to look at it. We've been working with Commissioner Hefner on some impact fee type of updates. Took the first stab at that, and that's where we came up in the initial comments of the $1.25 million. Going more to the Amazon as the apples to apples distribution to distribution on that was we came up with a 930. So I wanted to at least present that to you as a comparison between the two projects and the similarities that they're literally next door to each other. And so the idea of that and then the timing of that, basically take half of it with building A, half of it with building B. And then additionally, comment number 9, some clarifications there. Got some steep slopes along Athletes Way, trying to get that maybe cleaned up a bit. And then number 10, some sewer. So Amazon did construct some sewer facilities. They do have some facilities along Golden Bear Gateway. We first looked at that. I would far prefer gravity sewer from these buildings to an already existing gravity system or a existing pump station. We could go death by pump stations if we don't watch out. This is not like what we talked about earlier where they don't drain to the same area. This can drain to the west to the existing pump station on Amazon's property. So I'm not concerned about that. The grades do work. And they might have to acquire an easement. And if so, I added our typical clause that we've been going with under item number 10 for the sewer there. So a lot of the other comments there, fairly straightforward. I will say Amazon did a very good job improving Athletes Way at Golden Bear Gateway, that intersection. If you've driven through there, got the double lefts, double rights, pretty big signal construction right there. So that one's in great shape. Got some concerns on additional traffic on Rutland Drive there and how that's going to go. Potential for some signal warrants, basically so to identify our signal layout here along the corridor. We have about to go to construction a signal at Volunteer. That's fairly equidistant there to Rutland Drive, and then from there, Rutland Drive to the one at Athletes Way. Athletes Way to East Division was slightly shorter, but still decent. And so that's the general idea here with the signal layouts. We are anticipating with this development, with future development to the north and to the east, with additional commercial developments and maybe even maybe some multifamily we've seen to the property to the north. I think a signal at Rutland Drive it's going to happen at some point in time in the future. So that's just to give you an idea of the planning aspect on Golden Bear Gateway with that and some of the comments and changes I would propose with these. What I have there that you have on your desk, that would be what I would propose that we would include as conditions of approval. That's all for me. Shane, did you have any?
I got one quick question, Andy. 5A, access point between Athletes Way and Rutland Drive should be right in, right out. Which access point is that?
So let's see. Turn to
The
yeah,
very last page.
in between C and D, out parcel C and D. That access there, and so
Okay.
taking a look at it. So TDOT, we try to follow the TDOT standards as much as we can. This road, so Golden Bear Gateway was constructed under full TDOT guidelines, full TDOT design guidelines. And so it is my intent of try to keep that meeting those guidelines as much as we can. To that effect, TDOT's come out with a recent highway access manual that has some updated spacing for median openings. It's got some pretty good tables that talks about median openings, access points, and stuff like that. Because you've got the full access on Athletes Way and Rutland Drive, it really works well to have that as a right in, right out. So the TDOT requirement for that for full spacing is a minimum of 1,300 feet, 1,320 feet for a full access. This does not meet that. I think we've got an opportunity to clean this up a little bit. And I think one thing to note, this access point has been moved, I think, twice now. When Athletes Way came in, Beckwith North approval, Athletes Way, they monkeyed with that, with access points, and then again another time as well. Similar to that, I think the precedents on that, Amazon did do the same. They have a right in, right out between Athletes Way and the ramp to East Division. So it's basically repeating what we've already approved right there for Amazon.
So since not seeing all the road detail right there on that access road that lots A through G will feed in, and then of course it looks like you'll really have probably mostly employee traffic coming in from building A and building B. Is that access point back to Athletes Way got enough queuing to handle all of that? Because I mean, unless something opens up to the west, or to the east, sorry, over there towards Rutland Drive, then that's going to be the main access point. So is there, with that point, with that kind of loop right there in lot A and the proximity of that to the intersection at Athletes Way, and then the amount of volume, if A through G is online along with building A and building B, are we going to have enough queuing as that access point? And then making this right in, right out, could it handle that kind of a load?
Yeah, based on the traffic study, that the level of service for that access point is very good.
It is?
Yes. It had very low delays on it. My computer died, or I'd pull it up.
No worries.
But yeah, it does. The geometry of how that works out, I don't know that maybe it's the best layout as it sits right there, the way that curves around. But I think there's probably some opportunities there. I'll be honest with you, I'm far less concerned if we had multiple access points on Athletes Way. So we have the one on the south side of Building A. You've got the one on the north side. Grading could be slightly a bit of an issue. So I don't really necessarily have concerns other than spacing. Just make sure if you did have two different drives, one for the commercial on Athlete's Way that was dedicated for that, and then one for the distribution, just make sure that you have adequate spacing.
So we
Just-
is this sitting above or below Athlete's Way?
It's above. Now I'll say this, I've only seen a preliminary grading plan. I've not actually received that via submittal to actually review that to know exactly what's going on.
I'm digging that. I mean, I would love to see, I guess probably what, if you're not worried about your cuts on the Athlete's Way, be nice to at least have a car only access point off of Athlete's Way feeding into the possibility of building A. You got the opportunity to line up two points of an intersection based upon the building there across from it. Not sure which one that is, but they've got two. See how, I mean, just their similar layout where they're basically taking their car traffic, and that car traffic is able to feed right in, whereas their truck access points are very similar to where this lays out.
Yeah.
I would love to see that going forward as well.
I probably have the engineer give a little maybe explanation on that as far as elevations and how that could potentially work.
I mean, you don't want it like that. Yeah.
That is that steep slope area that I was talking about.
Okay.
I actually forgot to mention one other condition. It's on the back. Sorry, I printed mine front and back, but did have an additional comment. Include at least one sidewalk or multi-use path connection between buildings A and B to the out parcels. I think proximity here wise, I think some vehicular connectivity between A and B would be good. You know, we have it here with this plan. I think what's more important is the pedestrian connectivity. I can see, I see if you've got it, you know, multiple ones, the more that we can facilitate that, I think if you've got a fast food restaurant over here, that's going to be a big draw for people that are in these buildings. And I could see a lot of them just going and walking over there because that's exercise at lunch. They're might be confined to one area. So I can really see the draw for that active type of transportation use.
Nothing like a Whopper with cheese and large fry and a large Coke.
Walking to go get your
walking to
Whopper?
get it. Yeah.
Woo! That walk off calories.
Yeah, I know. I'm starving.
I got a question for Andy as well.
Please.
What is preventing us from that, I'll call it a frontage / backage road, combining that with the main entrance into the property? What is preventing us from combining that, just making it a singular access?
It's mostly grades.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's I'm just gonna guess, and I think from and the engineer can probably speak to this. I'm thinking off of memory, I think you're probably looking at about a 20 to 30 foot grade difference between I would say probably like out parcels C and D, finished floor elevation, and A and B, building A and the distribution buildings A and B.
That's all, huh?
Yeah, that's
Okay. Okay.
So
I'm with you.
A and B, lots A and B are sitting 20 or 30 feet below.
I think
Above.
so.
Are they
Yeah,
above or
building.
below? They're
Below. Below. Now, having said that, I mean, once we get into the mass grading plan, there's a lot more to consider with FMDP on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Hamper, you okay?
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
The gravity, the sewer.
Mm-hmm.
You guys gonna work, because when we met, you said there could be a potential of gravity.
Yes.
Instead of a pump station. Is that, will that be worked out?
Yes.
Before, assuming this goes forward?
Yes, and I think one of the things to look at, you know, the grading is going to give you an idea of how the drives can work, how the sidewalks can work, and really how the sewer is going to be able to work, so that you kind of know how it can be laid out. So I would say we give us an opportunity to take a closer look at that prior to coming to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
Won't have a final design or anything, but at least we can have a concept.
You can tell, you'll be able
Yes.
to know if
Mhm.
if gravity would work
Exactly,
over a
yes.
pump station. Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Let's go ahead and ask for representation of this project. Name and address for the record.
Hello, Evan Foster with Reagan Smith. Lots to talk about here. I did get a visual. Is there any way we can get that on screen? And I just want to start off with this to kind of put the whole view in perspective. The Project Jolene side, the two red buildings there in the middle, and the zoning we're asking for is the IR Pud, which will match the properties to the west and to the south. So they got the same setup on those. Appreciate staff reading all those conditions out. I think what I would like to touch on is first of all, the spine road. Looking at out parcel G, we started with this conceptual drive and started pushing it as far as we could from the intersection of Golden Bear Gateway. We've got about 200 feet there currently. So we're not opposed to working with staff to find a sweet spot there between separation from Golden Bear and provide adequate landscape buffering. So I think that will speak to planning comments 6 through 8. Public Works mentioned the steep slope and the sewer facilities. To speak on the steep slopes, there's an existing 12-inch water line high up in that slope, so taking that down is going to be a challenge. On top of that area is already stabilized at the moment. And to speak to the sewer, we're happy to explore the gravity option as we finalize this plan. To speak to the different drive locations that were just discussed, I think that also plays in the fact that there's a 12-inch water line that bumps up to a 20-inch water line. Once we get past that first drive, looking on the last sheet in that package, the first drive you see on Athletes Way, that line bumps up to a 20-inch water line. So it makes it even more difficult to cut drives, multiple drives through that area. And the last thing I'd like to at least talk about a little bit is the right in, right out on Golden Bear Gateway. It's pretty important to the out parcels to have full access there, if that's something we could consider. I think I've addressed everything.
So you don't think you can get an access, or not, car access and a non-truck access through there into the building?
Yeah, I didn't talk about that. Elevation is one concern, but mixing the truck traffic with vehicular traffic, especially the out parcel traffic, was a concern for us. We actually didn't have a connection for the out parcels to connect into Athletes Way to begin with. It's kind of a late addition that we worked with staff to accommodate. So I think at that point in the road, it will be kind of beyond the facilities. So we're more comfortable with that connection, but having them completely blended, I'm not wild about that idea.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to avoid, or find a way, but that many parking places over there, particularly for building A, just a way to get just the cars only. But your slope is going to be too great right there.
So if we're talking about extending that slope just straight down through Athletes Way, we haven't looked at that slope. I know that there's a good bit of slope there, and we had the benefit of that swinging drive to kind of make up grade there. I don't know off the top of my head what that slope would be, but we can look into it.
I guess at Final Master Development, I'd love to just servicing building A right there, just some way to get your car traffic, only, sign it and everything, keep your trucks out of it, because the trucks aren't going to be able to handle it anyway. It's going to be such a short point. But just some way similar to what they've done across the street from you right there on, I guess, the SEVA building, where they've got those two entrances servicing their car parking lot, but then their truck entrances are north and south, very similar to your layout right there.
Yeah. Benefit they
just explore. I mean, if you can do it, great. I think it would service you well.
I agree. If we could make that happen, I'd be thrilled, but we've got a lot of elevation change. that they
So
can
we're
have.
gonna waive the buffer, the Golden Bear buffer on this, but what is your potential? As Andy said, I hadn't looked at the grading plan and we don't have a copy of it here. What is your potential FFEs of these frontage lots versus your building A and building B? I mean, are they really going to be effective to do what the berm was going to do, or are they going to be sitting down below them where
The out
Do you know
parcels will
what
sit
your-
below roughly 20 feet. We do have some additional screening on the front side of the two industrial buildings. Is that answering your question?
the berm wouldn't have done anything anyway?
No, it wouldn't.
I'm with you. It does. Thank you.
Anything else?
Questions or comments? I guess I got one more for you. Yeah, this is simple.
Make it work.
I know it's kind of drawn but conceptual in nature. Do you think that your access road for those A through G will kind of be like that, or?
It's very conceptual. Is there a certain point you're worried about?
No, not really.
I think the idea is to have it on the back side of the out parcels.
Yeah, I like that.
And like I said, separate our connection point from Rutland Road and Golden Bear Gateway. And I think we could probably work to push that, the access point on the industrial side drive back a little bit further, but we still want to maintain that separation.
I think it's a welcome opportunity. I mean, I like the way that you guys have set it up right there for some additional opportunity on the frontage.
Yeah.
And then back there at the building, because I mean, heck, this overhead that you provide us just screams the need for it right there. And I think it'll be a good investment for whomever you represent. Further questions, comments? This time, let's call for citizen comments in regards to this item on the agenda. Any citizen wishing to make comment, welcome and encouraged to do so. Seeing no citizen comments this time, we are hearing 9.1 and 9.2 together. Both of them are recommendation items back to the Board of Commissioners. And at such time, I'm asking for a recommendation in regards. You may.
Anywhere that chain link would be utilized, I'd like for it to be black, not powder coated, but vinyl coated or more decorative in nature than just the galvanized.
No metal chain link, or needs to be black.
And then just a standard note, lighting shall comply with our design standards for that.
Very well.
Okay, I did forget.
Okay.
Andy, do you have a copy of your revised conditions?
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's something that we have. Fan sand. Oh, lights. I'll make a motion for a positive recommendation back to the Board of Commissioners with the addition of Ms. Hamlin's comments in regards to the fencing, black, decorative in nature, compliance with the lighting.
Lighting shall comply with our regulations.
Lighting shall comply with our regulations. Then we had something else on landscape. Is that right?
We usually
Did we-
include with the buffers,
Yeah,
the
we're-
waivers and all that, if you're, yep. They've agreed to work with staff.
Revised comments.
Yeah, and the addition of the revised comments. I captured that all?
Yes,
I
sir.
captured that all, Mr. Barlow? Is that correct?
With the comments that I included.
Correct. There's a motion for a positive recommendation.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raise your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? It is a positive recommendation. All right. As previously mentioned, item 10.1 was withdrawn. Item 11.1 was withdrawn. That brings us to item 12.1, which is a recommendation item back to the Board of Commissioners. Excuse me, it's to review the zoning ordinance amendment, Article 14, Section 14-109.4, Item 1, public notice by signage. Ms. Hamel.
Thank you. This is just an attempt by staff to kind of clean up the city. Our rezone annexation, BZA signs just get littered throughout the city and the applicant never picks them back up. And I just feel like this is a nicer look. And we would appreciate your support in the matter. This would require staff to put in and remove those signs so we can ensure that that is taking place. I'm sure there's signs out there from a year ago just flapping. Yeah, so it's just gotten out of hand, and this is just our attempt to try to curb some of that.
Very good. Questions, comments from the commission? Seeing none, we'll call for citizen comments. Seeing not many of those left either. We'll ask for a recommendation in regards to this item on our agenda.
Motion, positive recommendation.
Have a motion? Ooh, y'all gonna have to paper, rock, scissors for that. And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions. That is a positive recommendation. All right. Campaign time. So with this being said, our next item up on the agenda is 13.1, which is to vote to elect a chairperson and vice chairperson of the Mount Juliet Municipal Regional Planning Commission. We do take those separately. And so we would vote for its chairperson first and its vice chairperson second. So at this time, we will start with its chairperson, at which time we will open the floor for nominations.
I've talked to somebody who might be interested in being the chair again next year, so I'm gonna go ahead and nominate.
Motion for Luke Winchester to be the chairperson. Seems so weird. Seems so funny. Yeah. Any others? We will cease nominations and vote. All those in favor of Luke Winchester being its chairperson, signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. I'm going to vote for myself. Against? Abstentions? I just voted for myself. I think I have it. I know. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Voted against it.
Yeah, yes, that would have been, I have done that. With that being said, we will move on. Thank you, guys. Y'all do know pleasure I have in it, and I've said that at one point I would like to move forward, and figure 17 years is a pretty good time spent somewhere like there. I've been here since 2005 now, so yeah, it's a pretty good amount of time, and it is a honor to serve. I get asked very often, why do you do these things right here? Been here pretty much all my life, plan to be here the remainder of my life. And I was raised by daddy says, if you take a lot out, you better find ways to put a lot back in. And that came from both my parents growing up. So, yeah, time is not something that I enjoy a lot of these days, but this is something that certainly take great pleasure. So it's an honor, and I appreciate that endorsement from you guys. With that being said, we will now open the floor for a vice chairperson nominations for the Mount Juliet Regional Planning Commission. So, nomination, Commissioner Rass. Any additional? Acceptable? Happily. We will cease nominations, at which time all those in favor of Commissioner Rast being its vice chairperson signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. Against? Abstentions? Did you vote for yourself?
I didn't vote.
That says there's an abstention then. It's okay. Vote for yourself. I did. Got a motion to adjourn. I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Good night.
Did a good job.